Phoenix Nights. Chapter 3746. The three elders of the wood race were surrounded by ancestor Ing Tian and the others. The leading elder, Mu Heng, and another elder, Mu Hong, were killed one after another. This frightened the last elder of the wood race, Mu Lin, out of his wits. He quickly turned around and fled. "Do you think you can still escape?" Ancestor Ing Tian sneered and raised his right hand. A layer of sky curtain immediately appeared in the sky and shrouded Mu Lin, who was soaring into the sky. Extremely terrifying power of the immortal Tao descended from the sky, sealing off a part of the space. This was the power of the Heavenly Great Formation. Ancestor Ing Tian activated the power of the Heavenly Great Formation with a raise of his hand and sealed all of Mu Lin's escape routes. Mu Lin was an elder of the wood race. Normally, he was high and mighty. Even quasi-supremes like Ancestor Ing Tian would not look him in the eye. The elders of the wood race all had a sense of superiority over the other races. In their opinion, although Ancestor Ing Tian and the others were strong, they were still slaves of the wood race. Ancestor Ing Tian and the others naturally knew their status. They were just cannon fodder of the wood race. Every time the wood race fought with the other races, they would be at the forefront. Normally, Ancestor Ing Tian and the others would not dare to resist. However, it was different now. They would definitely not let go of any opportunity to kill the elders of the wood race. Shua! Ancestor Wutian's heavenless blade flashed through the air. The elder of the wood race, Mu Lin, screamed miserably. He was actually cut in half by the heavenless blade. Mu Lin's upper body still soared into the sky. He cultivated the supreme secret technique of the ghost sect, the undying ghost body. Even if he was cut by the heavenless blade, he would not suffer any fatal injuries. Boom! With a loud bang, the upper half of Mu Lin's body exploded. A mass of black gas instantly erupted and spread in all directions. Within the black gas, ghostly shadows flickered. It was as if the gates of hell had been opened and countless evil spirits were released from it. Within the black smoke, countless black shadows rushed out in all directions. That was Mu Lin's secret art of the ghost sect, which allowed him to create thousands of ghost clones. As long as he could escape from one of the clones, he would be able to survive and cultivate the immortal ghost body again. However, in order to kill the wood tribe, Ancestor Ing Tian had made preparations beforehand. He was also aware that Mu Lin had cultivated a secret art of the ghost sect. Ancestor Ing Tian naturally would not let Mu Lin go so easily. The sky canopy descended from the sky and enveloped all the ghostly shadows and black chi, sucking them into the sky canopy. Ing Tian, just you wait. My ancestor will definitely avenge us. Mu Lin's voice came from the sky, his voice stern. However, the Ing Tian great ancestor was not frightened by Mu Lin's words. He immediately activated the Ing Tian Great Formation, and Mu Lin, who was enveloped by the sky curtain, was immediately enveloped by a ball of true fire. Mu Lin only managed to let out half a scream before he was burned to ashes by the immortal fire that emerged from the sky. Apart from ashes, nothing was left. An elder of the wood tribe had suffered such a tragic fate, and both his body and soul had been destroyed. Mu Lin was dead, but the Ing Tian great ancestor and the others could not feel happy. Because killing the three great elders of the wood tribe meant that they had completely betrayed the wood tribe. No one knew better than them how powerful the wood tribe was. After all, it was not a matter of 1,000 or 2,000 years, but a very long time. The wood tribe had two extreme grade supremes, and their inheritance was endless. On the other hand, forces like the Ing Tian sect and the 10 Absolute Palace only had a short history of tens of thousands of years. Compared to the wood tribe, they were simply vulnerable. But now, they were going to betray the wood tribe and become enemies with the wood tribe. The Ing Tian great ancestor and the others did not know about Gu Fei's origin, but at this time, they hoped that Gu Fei was strong enough to compete with the extreme grade supremes of the wood tribe. But was this possible? The Ing Tian great ancestor and the others had already seen that Gu Fei was not an extreme grade supremes. In this case, if the two great ancestors of the wood tribe personally came, wouldn't Gu Fei be out of luck? Their hands were stained with the blood of the elders of the wood tribe. If Gu Fei was out of luck, they would also be out of luck. The Ying Tian great ancestor's expression was very solemn. He knew that they could no longer turn back. However, Gu Fei did not pay attention to the Ying Tian great ancestor and the others. Instead, he directly returned to the Ying Tian ancestor hall. After entering the ancestor hall and sitting on the throne in the middle of the hall, he carefully observed the ancient cauldron in his hand. Quasi-Supreme Tao artifact, containing endless vitality. Heaven Transformation Cauldron? Gu Fei released a strand of his divine consciousness into the ancient cauldron in his hand. In the next moment, he knew the origin of this ancient cauldron. Heaven Transformation Cauldron, what a domineering name. This Heaven Transformation Cauldron had an imprint left behind by its master. As long as this imprint was not erased, the master of this Heaven Transformation Cauldron could directly take it back. However, this Heaven Transformation Cauldron fell into the hands of Gu Fei. With one look, he could see through this Tao artifact. Gu Fei directly made a move to erase the imprint in the Heaven Transformation Cauldron. The instant Gu Fei erased the imprint, a middle-aged man who had been sitting cross-legged in a cave in the depths of the Wood Tribe's ancestral lands suddenly opened his eyes. The instant the middle-aged man opened his eyes, it was like two bolts of lightning flashed in the cave. A horrifying aura immediately spread out from his body. Countless Tao patterns appeared on the walls of the cave abode. "Mu Heng is dead?" the middle-aged man said. His voice was incomparably old, which did not match his appearance. At the same time, a few strong spiritual senses rushed out of the Wood Tribe's ancestral lands. These spiritual senses instantly enveloped the cave where the middle-aged man was. The experts of the Wood Tribe communicated with their spiritual senses. Naturally, the others did not know what they were talking about. At this moment, in the Ying Tian ancestral lands, Gu Fei entered his inner world and returned to the valley. He gave the Heaven Transformation Cauldron to Yenner. This Heaven Transformation Cauldron still had the soul of a wood dragon hidden in it. If Yenner could refine this Tao artifact, her cultivation and combat prowess would definitely soar. After that, Gu Fei left the valley and reappeared in the Great Hall. At this moment, old ancestor Ying Tian and the others were already standing in the Great Hall with their hands by their sides. It looked like they had been waiting for a long time. However, they were very careful. They did not dare to show any dissatisfaction or impatience. It had to be known that their life and death depended on a single thought from Gu Fei. "Greetings, Master!" When old ancestor Ying Tian and the others saw Gu Fei appear, they immediately knelt on the ground. "Get up!" Gu Fei waved his hand and sat down. "Yes, Master!" Old ancestor Ying Tian and the others hurriedly stood up. "Speak!" Gu Fei did not want to talk nonsense with these guys. "Master, what should we do next?" Palace Master Shujua asked carefully. "What should we do next?" Gu Fei touched his chin and pondered for a while before saying, "Ying Tian, spread the news that you will undergo tribulation in 3 days to break through to the extreme grade realm." "What?" When old ancestor Ying Tian heard this, he was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. Wasn't this courting death? Breaking through to the extreme grade supremacy realm? This would attract the extreme grade supremacy realm. At that time, those extreme grade supremacy realm could wipe Ying Tian's sect from the ancestral realm with a slap. "Master, you want brother Ying Tian to undergo tribulation?" Sect Master Wutian glanced at old ancestor Ying Tian and said in shock. Everyone looked at Gu Fei. "It's not a real tribulation. I just want to spread the news that I want to attract the Wood Tribe's extreme grade supremacy realm," Gu Fei said nonchalantly. This? Old ancestor Ying Tian and the others were dumbfounded. What was the master doing? He actually wanted to attract the Wood Tribe's extreme grade supremacy realm. Wasn't this courting death? "All right, that's it. Step down," Gu Fei said impatiently with a wave of his hand. "Yes. This lowly one will take his leave." Old ancestor Ying Tian and the others hurriedly bowed to Gu Fei and then retreated from the hall step by step. "It's time to undergo tribulation." Gu Fei looked up at the ceiling of the hall and muttered to himself. His cultivation had reached the peak of the quasi-supremacy realm, and he had long been ready to break through to the extreme grade realm. The reason why he hadn't done so was that he wanted to be fully prepared. One had to know that once he failed to break through to the extreme grade realm, the consequences were extremely serious. His body and soul would be destroyed. This ultimate leap was too difficult, which was why Gu Fei hadn't dared to break through to the extreme grade realm. He wanted to make it foolproof. Gu Fei was digging a hole that could kill an extreme grade supremacy. Patriarch Ing Tian had actually been in seclusion for 1,800 years in order to break through to the extreme grade. He had only come out of seclusion in the past few years. Gu Fei wanted old ancestor Ing Tian to spread the news in order to attract the Wood race's extreme grade supremacy. The Wood clan had 2 extreme grade supremes and 2 progenitors. There was no way the Wood clan's extreme grade supremes wouldn't have sensed old ancestor Ing Tian's breakthrough to the extreme grade realm. If 1 came, he would kill 1. If 2 came, he would kill a pair. Very soon, an explosive piece of news spread through the territories ruled by the Wood tribe. Even forces outside of the Wood tribe received the news. Is it true that Patriarch Ing Tian will undergo his tribulation in 3 days? It's been a long time since someone from the ancestral realm tried to break through to the extreme grade. Yes, the last time was 5,000 years ago. The cultivation world of the ancestral realm was in an uproar. Everyone was discussing old ancestor Ing Tian's tribulation. The Wood race naturally received the news immediately. But what was strange was that they didn't make things difficult for old ancestor Ing Tian. The 3 Wood race elders died in Ing Tian's ancestral land, which made the Wood race furious. Now, there was news that old ancestor Ing Tian was going to undergo his tribulation. This was no small matter. No one knew what the higher-ups of the Wood race were thinking. However, Gu Fei knew that the Wood clan was only enduring for the time being. They would definitely not let the 3 elders die in vain. Gu Fei was going to undergo his tribulation in 3 days. Success or failure depended on this. Whether he could replace the Wood race or not would depend on what happened in 3 days. Chapter 3747. Ancestor Ing Tian would undergo the extreme supreme tribulation in 3 days. As soon as the news came out, the entire territory controlled by the Wood clan boiled over. Soon, a large number of cultivators arrived outside the ancestral ground. They were all cultivators who lived near the ancestral ground. After receiving the news, many cultivators directly came to the ancestral ground through the teleportation formation. For a moment, the outside of the ancestral ground was very lively. 800 miles away from the ancestral land of the Ing Tian sect, an ancient city was packed with people. Before the news came out, the streets of the ancient city were very deserted. After the news came out, there was a continuous stream of divine light rushing out from the teleportation formation in the city. People kept coming, and the teleportation formation never stopped. The inns, tea houses, and streets of the ancient city were all filled with people. Moreover, they were all cultivators. There were even figures of the demon clan and barbarian clan on the streets. Even some of the demons that were covered in deviltry swaggered into the Ing Tian city. I heard that ancestor Ing Tian's cultivation reached the peak of the quasi-supreme 10,000 years ago. Is he finally going to undergo the tribulation now? Ancestor Ing Tian seems to have been in seclusion for 1,800 years for this tribulation. I wonder if it's true. If he succeeds, then he will be on equal footing with the Wood clan. Countless cultivators were discussing about ancestor Ing Tian's tribulation. It had been a long time since anyone in the ancestral realm was able to make the final leap. The disciples of Ing Tian's sect were naturally ecstatic. Their ancestor was undergoing the extreme supreme tribulation. If he succeeded, they might not have to be slaves of the Wood clan anymore. Being a slave was not a good feeling. A little guy from the Wood clan could bully the experts of other sects at will. This was the cruel world where the strong preyed on the weak. The Wood clan was so powerful that no one dared to provoke them. Under the Wood clan's rule, there were more than a dozen subsidiary forces like Ing Tian's sect. This power was enough to make any second-rate force despair. The ancestral mountain was so huge that even the people of the ancestral realm could not imagine it. It was not a secret that there was a big secret in the ancestral realm. However, no one knew exactly what the secret was. Perhaps only the extreme-grade supreme beings were qualified to know. Ing Tian's tribulation has caused a sensation. In a tea house next to Ing Tiancheng's main street, a purple-haired young man sat by the window as he looked at the people coming and going on the street. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Master, even if Ing Tian succeeds in transcending the tribulation, he'll still be your slave. An old servant dressed in green standing behind the purple-haired young man lowered his head and said carefully, "You're right." "Haha, then let's give Ing Tian a big surprise." The purple-haired youth laughed and said, "This should be a shock." The green-robed old servant echoed, "What are you two talking about? How dare you look down on our sect leader?" At this moment, a burly man at the neighboring table slammed the table and stood up, glaring at the purple-haired youth. Isn't this fellow the eldest disciple of Ing Tian City's city lord Tai Man?" Someone recognized the muscular man. "These two fellows don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They actually dare to criticize the sect leader of Ing Tian's sect behind his back. Looks like they're in for it." Someone whispered. "I heard everything you said clearly. You want my sect master to be your slave? It's outrageous." The iron tower-like burly man strode towards the purple-haired youth as he spoke. He stretched out his big hand and was about to grab the purple-haired youth's shoulder. "Presumptuous!" The green-robed old servant standing behind the purple-haired youth just waved his hand, and Tai Man flew out, directly smashing through the wall and falling outside the tea-house. All the cultivators in the tea-house were stunned when they saw this. The purple-haired youth was still leisurely sipping his tea and did not look at Tai Man from beginning to end. "You wait, don't leave if you have the guts!" Tai Man's voice came from outside the tea-house. "Humph! A little ant dares to be presumptuous in front of my master. Master, let me deal with this guy." The green-robed old servant walked out from behind the purple-haired youth and said respectfully to the purple-haired youth, "Forget it." The purple-haired youth shook his head. "Humph! This guy is lucky." The green-robed old servant retreated. "Sir, The tea-house's shopkeeper recovered from the shock and hurriedly ran over. The green-robed old servant directly took out a fist-sized crystal from his sleeve and threw it to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper hurriedly caught the crystal and looked down at it. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face, and then he retreated. "That is, a supreme-grade immortal crystal?" When the surrounding cultivators saw the crystal in the shopkeeper's hand, all of them were extremely jealous. That was a supreme-grade immortal crystal, and it was such a big piece. Even if the tea-house was demolished, it would be enough to compensate for it. The master and servant did not leave, and they seemed to be not afraid of Tai Man's threat at all. Soon, a powerful immortal Tao aura surged out from the depths of Ing Tian City. "Oh no!" When they sensed the mighty aura of the immortal Tao, the expressions of all the cultivators in the tea-house instantly changed greatly, and they immediately fled as if there was oil on their feet. In just an instant, only the purple-haired youth and the green-robed old servant were left in the entire tea-house. Even the fat tea-house's shopkeeper was nowhere to be seen. The purple-haired youth still had a calm expression, but the green-robed old servant behind him frowned. Whoosh! At this moment, a ball of immortal light rushed in from outside the tea-house. The immortal light dissipated, and 5 people appeared. One of them was the eldest disciple of Ing Tian City's city lord, Tai Man, who had been thrown away by the green-robed old servant. The green-robed old servant saw that the leader of the 5 people was an old man with a sage-like appearance. "Martial uncle, it's these 2 people who dared to criticize the sect master behind his back." Tai Man pointed at the purple-haired youth, and the green-robed old servant with a face full of grief and indignation. "How dare you criticize the sect master? You deserve to die!" The old man said righteously, and then he waved his hand. An immortal blade immediately flew out of his sleeve, directly toward the purple-haired youth and the green-robed old servant. "How dare you!" The green-robed old servant walked out from behind the purple-haired youth. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed the immortal blade that was coming at him. The immortal blade struggled in his hand like a spirit snake. "You!" Seeing this, the old man could not help but be shocked. The eyes of Tai Man and the others behind the old man almost fell to the ground. Their martial uncle was a Saint King, and in existence at the peak of Saint King. He was only half a step away from becoming a Saint Emperor. The doctrine tool that their martial uncle had taken out was naturally a Saint King doctrine tool. This green-robed old servant, who looked so ordinary that he could not be more ordinary, had actually grabbed the Saint King doctrine tool with his bare hands. Didn't this mean that the body of the green-robed old servant was even stronger than the Saint King doctrine tool? You don't even know who you've provoked! The green-robed old servant sneered at the people in front of him. A powerful wave of energy erupted from his body, and the entire tea house began to shake. Chapter 37:48. This is, in the tea house of Ingtian City, the junior brother and the 4 juniors of the city lord were stunned. This seemingly ordinary old servant was actually a peerless expert. How is this possible? The voice of Tai Man, the eldest disciple of the city lord, trembled. The pressure that came from the old servant made his soul tremble. Tai Man's other 3 junior brothers directly lay on the ground, trembling in extreme fear. Saint Emperor? The junior brother of the city lord, Huang Long, was shocked to the extreme. A servant was actually a Saint Emperor. Then how powerful was the master of this old servant? Thinking of this, Huang Long couldn't help but look at the purple-haired young man who was still sitting leisurely drinking tea. This time, it was really because of Tai Man that he was going to die. Huang Long's forehead was sweating. In his heart, he had already bought over 18 generations of Tai Man's ancestors. How dare you be presumptuous in front of my master? Leave your lives behind! The azure-robed old servant looked at Taoist Huang Long and said indifferently, Fellow Taoist, is there some misunderstanding? As Huang Long spoke, his right hand that was hidden in his sleeve had already crushed a talisman. You dare to play tricks in front of my door? Go die! As he spoke, the old servant pointed out with a finger, and a speck of starlight shot out from the tip of his finger. Puff! With a light sound, a flower of blood bloomed from between Huang Long's eyebrows. In the next moment, his entire body exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Even his origin spirit couldn't escape. The speck of starlight turned, and Tai Man and the other disciples of the city lord instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they died. It was that simple. In front of a Saint Emperor, Huang Long and the others were like ants that could be instantly killed with a raise of a hand. The smell of blood filled the air, and the purple-haired young man who was drinking tea couldn't help but frown. Let's go! The purple-haired young man put down the teacup and stood up. Boom! At this moment, there was a loud bang, and a huge golden hand slapped down from the sky. The entire tea house instantly exploded and was smashed to pieces by the golden hand. You want to leave? Have you asked for my permission? A furious roar came from the sky, and a figure that emitted boundless golden light descended from the sky. The entire world seemed to have transformed into a celestial realm, bathed in celestial light. Within the celestial light, celestial flowers floated down, and there seemed to be celestial music of the great path lingering in the void. Everyone there was shocked to the extreme. The cultivators in the vicinity of the tea house fled in terror. Some unlucky fellows were simply sent flying by the formidable shockwaves. You dare to kill my people in my territory? You're simply looking for death. The newcomer stared at the ruins below and said coldly. There was a huge palm print on the ground. Humph! A cold laugh rang out and a ball of divine light slowly rose from the palm print. Within the divine light were 2 figures. They were the purple-haired young man and his servant. What? Ingtian's city lord was shocked. His full power attack was actually unable to kill these 2 fellows? Could this fellow actually be a Saint Venerable? How is this possible? Who the hell are you? Ingtian's city lord was shocked and angry. This time, he had really kicked an iron plate. Who exactly did his junior brother provoke? Noisy. The purple-haired young man then waved his hand, and Intian City Lord immediately felt as if he had been hit by an invisible divine mountain. His body instantly exploded and turned into a mist of blood. Both his body and soul were directly destroyed. It was as if he had simply swatted a fly to death. His face was indifferent. When the cultivators in the distance saw this scene, they were really shocked. Intian City Lord actually died just like that. For a moment, the surroundings were incomparably silent. Let's go meet old ancestor Intian. As the purple-haired young man spoke, he took the green-robed old servant and soared into the sky. In an instant, they disappeared into the void and disappeared without a trace, leaving behind countless dumbfounded spectators. Intian City Lord was dead. He was casually swatted to death by someone. When the news spread, the entire Intian City was in an uproar. Who the hell is that person? He actually dared to kill Intian City Lord. Isn't he afraid of old ancestor Intian? Someone said with extreme shock. The death of Intian City Lord had indeed alarmed many important figures, but now, the eyes of all the forces were focused on Intian ancestral ground. No one stood up for Intian City Lord. At this time, all the important figures were heading towards Intian ancestral ground, wanting to see old ancestor Intian undergo the tribulation. Just as those important figures arrived at Intian ancestral ground, Gu Fei secretly left Intian ancestral ground with old ancestor Intian. The Qingyun Path Master and the others stayed behind. Gu Fei had left a backup plan in Intian ancestral ground. It should be known that Intian ancestral ground was a super huge pit at this time. In the sky above Intian ancestral ground, there were constantly divine lights flying past. There were also people riding all kinds of divine beasts, and there were even many sword immortals flying on their swords. Powerful auras constantly descended from the sky. The ferocious birds and beasts in the mountains were all extremely frightened and carefully hid. Many experts from the Wood Clan had come. At noon, countless people clustered around a chariot that descended to Intian ancestral ground. The chariot was incomparably gorgeous, and the entire chariot was actually refined from Yang Essence Iron. Yang Essence Iron was a divine iron that could only be found in the core of a divine Sunday. Even in the ancestral realm, it was very rare. To reach the core of a divine sun, one had to at least have the cultivation of a quasi-supreme. Otherwise, one's body and soul would be burned by the Yang divine fire. The divine sun of the ancestral realm was different from the divine suns of other worlds. The starry sky of the ancestral realm was infinitely vast, and countless divine suns decorated the starry sky. Every divine sun was emitting Yang true fire. Some divine suns were especially huge, and there were even connate lifeforms in the core. In the ancestral realm, everything was possible. To be able to use supreme Yang Essence Iron to refine a war chariot, this could be considered to be very luxurious. Furthermore, the war chariot was also inlaid with star stones. Each of these star stones were refined from real stars. There seemed to be a starry sky around the chariot, and the entire chariot seemed to be flying in the starry sky. As for the beasts pulling the chariot, they were even more astonishing. There were actually 9 astral beasts. These astral beasts relied on devouring stars to survive. If a single astral beast appeared, the entire starfield would suffer a calamity. These wild beasts were naturally huge to be able to devour a star in one bite. But at this time, these 9 star beasts had shrunk to the size of ordinary horses. They pulled the star chariot and descended toward Intian Ancestral Mountain. Everyone crowded around the chariot and welcomed it into Intian Ancestral Mountain. However, to the cultivators outside the Primogenitor Mountain Range, entering the Primogenitor Mountain Range to undergo the tribulation was undoubtedly courting death. However, no matter what world it was, there would always be some crazy fellows who thought highly of themselves. They believed that they would be invincible after successfully passing the tribulation in the Primogenitor Mountain Range. However, it was good to have confidence, but it was not good to be too confident. There were very few tribulation transcenders who could walk out of the Primogenitor Mountain Range. This place is not bad. Gu Fei stopped outside the entrance of a valley. He was in existence at the peak of the quasi-supremacy stage, and had already stepped into the extreme grade realm. He could naturally sense the difference between the primogenitor mountain range and the outside world. Since he was going to make the ultimate leap, he would do his best. If he could succeed, he would be nearly invincible among his peers. Gu Fei had fought with the progenitor of the wood race before, so he knew how powerful and terrifying the progenitor of the wood race was. The other party was a veteran extreme grade sovereign, so if Gu Fei wanted to compete with him, he would have to take the risk. No one could casually obtain great power. Seeing that Gu Fei was really going to pass the tribulation, the old ancestor Tian was indescribably shocked. What was wrong with his new master? He clearly knew that there was danger, but he still came here to pass the tribulation. At this moment, Gu Fei flipped his right hand, and an ancient cauldron appeared in his hand. It was a simple and unadorned cauldron, only the size of a fist. However, it was this ancient cauldron that could not be any more ordinary, that exuded an ancient aura that seemed to have come from the prehistoric times. This made the old ancestor Tian somewhat incredulous. No matter which world it was in, only immortal things could exist for eternity. This small cauldron seemed to have existed for countless years, so it was definitely not ordinary. "Old man, come out!" Gu Fei slapped the ancient cauldron. In the next moment, a cursing sound came from the ancient cauldron. "Brat, can't you let this old man have a good rest?" Following the sound of cursing, a skinny old man with messy hair like a chicken coop emerged from the small cauldron. The little old man shouted at Gu Fei in dissatisfaction. This is... The disheveled old man suddenly looked around in shock. Then, he closed his eyes and sensed the void around him. "How is this possible? Brat, you actually came to the ancestral world?" The disheveled old man opened his eyes abruptly and stared at Gu Fei in disbelief. Gu Fei smiled and said indifferently, "What's so difficult about that?" At this moment, the old ancestor Tian looked at the disheveled old man on the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand. His eyeballs were about to fall to the ground. Wasn't this the legendary god that was born from an extreme Tao treasure? Ordinary sacred treasures might have an artifact soul, but a god was different. It was the ultimate transformation of an artifact soul. It was a different kind of life existence. A god was a life form, but an artifact soul was not. This was the fundamental difference between an extreme Tao treasure and an ordinary Tao treasure. It could speak, communicate with its master, and have an independent spiritual consciousness. Only the god of an extreme Tao treasure could do this. An extreme Tao treasure was simply a different kind of supreme being. At this moment, the old ancestor Tian finally understood why Gu Fei wasn't afraid of the wood race. He actually had an extreme Tao treasure. The old ancestor Tian looked at Gu Fei with awe. "Stop showing off in front of me. Tell me, how did you come here?" The disheveled old man looked at Gu Fei with disdain. Gu Fei then told him how he came to the ancestral world. "Brat, you're really bold." The disheveled old man couldn't help but shake his head. This guy really knew how to cause trouble. He had just conquered the ancestral god world, and now he came to the ancestral world to harm the living beings there. The ancestral world wasn't something an ordinary world could compare to. This was the source of all worlds. Without the power of heaven's punishment, supreme beings could do whatever they wanted. If Gu Fei entered the ancestral world now, and was targeted by a supreme being, he would definitely die. Even with the protection of the mountain and river cauldron, it wouldn't work. A true supreme being was much more powerful than an extreme Tao treasure. "All right, what do you think of me undergoing the tribulation here?" Gu Fei said to the disheveled old man impatiently. "Undergoing the tribulation here?" The disheveled old man carefully sensed this world. Soon, he put away his frivolous expression and turned extremely solemn. "Are you sure you want to undergo the tribulation here?" The disheveled old man stared at Gu Fei seriously. At this moment, he was no longer joking around. This concerned Gu Fei's life and death. The ultimate leap was not an easy task. This was many times more difficult than any of the heavenly tribulations that Gu Fei had undergone previously. If the ultimate leap was easy to achieve, there wouldn't be so few supreme beings in the world. Throughout the ages, there weren't many supreme beings that were born. Even if some worlds had flawless laws of heaven and earth, they might not be able to give birth to supreme beings. Why? Not here? Gu Fei stared at the disheveled old man with a solemn expression. Chapter 3750. Gu Fei brought Patriarch Ing Tian into the Primogenitor Mountain Range. They headed deeper into the Primogenitor Mountain Range and didn't encounter many powerful beasts along the way. This surprised Gu Fei. One must know that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Primogenitor Mountain Range was much denser than other regions. Cultivating here would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. However, those cultivators were afraid of being contaminated by the primogenitor chi in the Primogenitor Mountain Range. Any cultivator who cultivated in the Primogenitor Mountain Range would face a much stronger heaven's tribulation when they were about to undergo it. It was a heaven's tribulation that could make the cultivator despair. Most cultivators who entered the Primogenitor Mountain Range to cultivate would end up with their bodies and souls destroyed. As time went by, no one dared to enter the Primogenitor Mountain Range to cultivate. When Gu Fei arrived in front of a valley, Gu Fei stopped and didn't head deeper into the Primogenitor Mountain Range. This place was not bad. The valley was surrounded by mountains and the entire valley was like an upside-down bowl. This valley was a spiritual land that gathered the spiritual energy of the surrounding mountains. Since Gu Fei was going to undergo the heavenly tribulation, he naturally had to be prepared. He directly summoned the god's will of the mountain and river cauldron. This caused old ancestor Ing Tian, who was watching from the side, to be so scared that his legs turned to jelly. That was a god from the legends. The disheveled old man was a super antique that had existed for countless years. He rushed up into the sky and observed the surrounding terrain seriously, sensing the Tao runes of this part of the world. Soon, he flew down from the sky and landed on the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand. He sat there, swinging his legs and looking up into the sky. No one knew what he was thinking. Gu Fei didn't disturb the disheveled old man. Since his master didn't say anything, Patriarch Ing Tian was naturally even more careful and didn't dare to let out a fart. Although the disheveled old man was only the size of a finger, Patriarch Ing Tian knew that he could kill him with one finger. The disheveled old man stared at the sky for a long time. After he retracted his gaze, the 5 fingers on his right hand kept pinching as if he was a fortune teller. Gu Fei was amused by the disheveled old man's behavior. "Brat, I think you should just forget about it. Don't undergo your tribulation here." The disheveled old man shook his head and said to Gu Fei. Gu Fei looked at the disheveled old man suspiciously. The disheveled old man scratched his messy hair in embarrassment. "This place is very special and it's not suitable for tribulation transcendence. Even if we were to use everything we have and protect you, there's only a 40% chance of success." "That low?" Gu Fei said in surprise. At this moment, when Patriarch Ing Tian heard the words of the disheveled old man, he was already shocked to the extreme, suspecting that he had heard wrongly. A 40% chance was way too high. That was 40%. In other words, in theory, 4 out of 10 people would succeed. This was many times higher than the success rate he had obtained from the test. Master actually has a 40% chance of success. Forefather Ing Tian found it hard to believe. It can't be helped. I don't understand it either. There are so many auras of the extreme Tao in this place. If you were to return to the ancestral God world or the human world, there's still a 90% chance of success. The disheveled old man pondered for a moment and said, "Neither the human world nor the ancestral God world is the most ideal place for tribulation transcendence." Gu Fei did not want to undergo tribulation in the human world or any other perfect world because the destruction would be too great. The entire world might be affected and collapse if he was not careful. "You want to be invincible among your peers?" The disheveled old man suddenly stared at Gu Fei with glowing eyes. This guy's ambition was higher than the sky. Gu Fei did not say anything, but from the arrogance on his face, the disheveled old man knew that this was definitely his plan. Otherwise, he would not have chosen this place for tribulation transcendence. Even the disheveled old man could not see through the ancestral mountain range. There would be unknown dangers in undergoing tribulation here. Then let's start preparing. The disheveled old man nodded and said. This time, Gu Fei did not bring the 4 extreme Tao protectors with him. Otherwise, his chances of success would increase by another 20%. This time, Gu Fei came to the ancestral world alone with his inner world. The disheveled old man was definitely experienced in tribulation transcendence. Under his command, Gu Fei and forefather Yingtian got busy. First, they set up the formation. This valley was most suitable for setting up a defensive formation. The disheveled old man decided to set up an extreme Tao defensive formation. The disheveled old man imprinted array patterns on the mountain ridges around the valley as well as the void. In less than half a day, the defensive formation was completed. Boom! The disheveled old man tried to activate the defensive formation. The next moment, there was a loud bang and the entire valley shook. A gigantic divine shield appeared in the void. The surrounding heaven and earth essence chi immediately gathered towards the defensive formation and was devoured by it. The gigantic divine shield enveloped the entire valley. But before long, the divine shield disappeared into the void along with the countless formation patterns. This was only a single layer of defensive formation. The disheveled old man had no intention of stopping and continued to set up the formation. He wanted to set up 9 formations to help Gu Fei resist the power of the tribulation. Later on, Gu Fei and forefather Yingtian watched the disheveled old man set up the formation. Other than the 9 layers of defensive formations, the disheveled old man also set up offensive formations in the surrounding mountains. It was not the disheveled old man's style to blindly defend. Now that he had defense and offense, the most important step was the extreme Tao weapon. Gu Fei had quite a number of extreme Tao weapons and the disheveled old man was one of them. The purple gold godly sword, human emperor's truncheon, ancestral sword of all gods, mountain and river cauldron, mountain and river diagram, supreme ominous saber, 3-world steel and many more. The human emperor's truncheon was not with Gu Fei. How the disheveled old man was going to use these extreme Tao weapons was a secret. Gu Fei had absolute trust in the disheveled old man. He sat cross-legged on an array platform in the middle of the valley, and gradually adjusted his condition to the best. I'm finally going to undergo the tribulation. The ultimate leap! From now on, I'll have no more worries and no more fear of opponents. From now on, I'll roam the 3 realms and 6 paths. Who would dare to challenge me? Gu Fei screamed in his heart. The ultimate leap. If he succeeded, he would be invincible. If he failed, he would die. It was that simple. At this moment, forefather Yingtian had already retreated far away. He had retreated millions of miles away, but he still did not feel safe. After retreating another 1,000,000 miles, he was almost outside the primogenitor mountain range. The disheveled old man was not idling. He was still setting up formations in the sky and on the ground. Countless runes rushed out from the disheveled old man's body and imprinted in all directions. Each rune emitted an extremely powerful energy wave. The disheveled old man was really going all out this time round. Chapter 3751. Gu Fei's tribulation was a big deal in the eyes of the god of the mountain river cauldron, the disheveled old man who had no aura of a god at all. This time, the disheveled old man set up the array with all his might. Other gods were definitely tall and mighty with an explosive aura, but the disheveled old man didn't think much of it. What was the use of acting tough? The fist was the hard truth. While the disheveled old man was setting up the array, Gu Fei sat cross-legged in the valley, calmly adjusting his state of mind. The most important thing about the state of the martial body was that the state of mind and the martial body could be in perfect harmony. Only then could the greatest power be exerted. Time passed, and before he knew it, more than half a month had passed. The Yingtian ancestral grounds outside the ancestral mountains were bustling with noise and excitement. The big shots that were rarely seen all jumped out. Isn't that Ancestor Tianfeng? Didn't he die in the battle with Ancestor Yunwei 800 years ago? On the square of the Yingtian Ancestral Hall, several cultivators whispered to a thin Taoist beside them. "It's just groundless rumors," someone said disapprovingly. There were so many rumors in the cultivation world that anyone who believed them would be a fool. If Ancestor Tianfeng had died, how could he appear here? Isn't that the elder of the Jin clan, Jin Xiao? He's not dead either. With the appearance of a few experts of the older generation, many people were extremely shocked. Especially those peerless experts who were rumored to have fallen, they once again appeared in everyone's line of sight, causing quite a commotion. At this time, in the newly built hall of the Yingtian Ancestral Mountain, the descendant of the Mu clan's ancestor, Mu Jinghong, was already a little impatient. More than half a month had passed, and Ancestor Tianfeng hadn't appeared at all. No one knew where he would undergo the tribulation. None of the subsect masters and elders of the ancestral grounds knew where their ancestor was. The only thing they knew was that Ancestor Tianfeng had entered the ancestral mountains. Interesting. That guy actually dared to enter the ancestral mountains to undergo the tribulation. Is he really not afraid of death? Mu Jinghong said as he rubbed his nose. Purple hair, blue eyes, and a face so handsome that it was almost perfect. All these factors added together made him look unreal. How could there be such a perfect existence in this world? Master, since we already know that our elder and Prince Muqin died in Yingtian sect, why don't we just destroy Yingtian sect? The green-robed old servant said carefully. Uncle Jian, you've followed me for so long, how could you not know my temperament? What was so fun about directly destroying the Yingtian sect? I want old Ancestor Yingtian and the people behind him to kneel in front of me, then I'll trample them to death one by one. Only then will I not have made this trip in vain. The purple-haired young man lazily lay on the throne as he spoke indifferently. It was as if he was talking about something that could not be any more ordinary. This purple-haired youth was the one who had killed Yingtian's city lord in a second. No one would have thought that he was a descendant of one of the ancestors of the Wood clan. If they knew his identity, Yingtian's city lord and the others would probably be scared to death before Mu Jinghong did anything. When Uncle Jian heard this, he didn't dare to say anything more. He lowered his head and stood to the side. The purple-haired youth closed his eyes and took a nap on the throne. At this time, there were only the two of them in the main hall. No one else dared to enter. Moreover, there were only a few people at the peak of Yingtian Ancestor Mountain. Yingtian Ancestor Mountain was the most important place in Yingtian Ancestor Land. Usually, only old Ancestor Yingtian was qualified to cultivate on Yingtian Ancestor Mountain. Only those who were on an equal footing with old Ancestor Yingtian were qualified to enter Yingtian Ancestor Mountain. On Yingtian Ancestor Mountain, Qin Yun Path Master, Wutian Sect Master, and Shiju Palace Master were waiting outside the main hall carefully. They didn't dare to take a single step away. The fellow inside was a ruthless person who hid a dagger in his smile. He would kill people at the slightest disagreement. Even the Qin Yun Path Master and the others didn't dare to slight him. This was because if Mu Jinghong wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. The Qin Yun Path Master and the others looked forward to the return of Gu Fei and old Ancestor Yingtian. They hoped that they could chase the fellow away or even kill him. Meanwhile, in the Primogenitor Mountain Range, the disheveled old man hadn't stopped for half a month. With the valley where Gu Fei was at as the center, the disheveled old man desperately set up formations. The formations were densely packed and there were layers upon layers of formations. Countless Tao patterns rushed out from his body at all times, imprinting in all directions. Countless arrays enveloped the area within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. The power condensed by these arrays could only be described as super terrifying. I, your father, want to fight with you guys. The disheveled old man muttered to himself as he set up the formations. He didn't stop and the area within 1,000,000 miles was filled with formation patterns. They were all shocking killing formations. Old Ancestor Yingtian, who was watching from afar, was extremely shocked. Even a quasi-supreme being would be instantly vaporized if he entered a formation of this level. This was a formation that could go against an extreme Tao supreme being. From old Ancestor Yingtian's point of view, the disheveled old man was simply too crazy. In order to pass the tribulation, he had actually set up countless formations. The disheveled old man used all the extreme Tao Saint items that Gu Fei had given him in the killing formations. He also used the extreme Tao weapons that he had obtained from the ancestor god realm and the chaos demon world. The killing formations set up with the extreme Tao weapons were even more terrifying. The killing intent was shocking, and the terrifying aura that spread out caused even the sky to change color, and the sun and moon to dim. As the disheveled old man continued to set up shocking killing formations, the power gathered by the countless killing formations became even stronger. This power was so strong that it seemed to be able to turn the universe upside down. This was also the first time the disheveled old man had used such a big move. Even if it were a formation grandmaster like Erebus, he would definitely feel ashamed of his own inferiority if he were to witness this technique of the disheveled old man. This was an unparalleled formation Tao technique that the disheveled old man had grasped for countless years. It had long surpassed the realm of a formation grandmaster. The primogenitor mountain range was the center of the entire primogenitor world and was the source of the endless ancestral veins of the primogenitor world. Even though this place wasn't suitable for cultivation, there was no doubt that the primogenitor mountain range contained unimaginable power. What the disheveled old man wanted to do now was to draw the power of the mountain range for his own use. Borrowing the power of heaven and earth to go against the heavenly tribulation wasn't a new method. It was the most primitive method. However, the disheveled old man wanted to borrow the power of the primogenitor mountain range. The disheveled old man was very confident in the killing formations that he had set up. Even if an extreme Tao Supreme Being were to come personally, he wouldn't be afraid. If an extreme Tao Supreme Being dared to barge into the killing formations, he would just have to kill him. This was the disheveled old man's confidence. Chapter 3752. The mountain river cauldron had existed for an unknown period of time. It was said that the mountain river cauldron had been around since the mythological era. One could only imagine how long it had existed. Compared to Haitian, the disheveled old man was the true number one expert in formation Tao. In front of the disheveled old man, formation grandmasters were akin to ants. As the disheveled old man was setting up the formation, Gu Fei was seated on a huge rock in the middle of the valley, motionless as though he had turned into a stone statue. A gentle breeze blew past, lifting a strand of Gu Fei's hair. His clothes fluttered gently as a figure appeared silently before Gu Fei. F***ck, I'm so tired! The disheveled old man sat down beside Gu Fei and wiped the sweat off his forehead. This fella sure is carefree. The disheveled old man glanced at Gu Fei and shook his head with a smile. The stronger Gu Fei was, the better it was for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have valued Gu Fei so much. Gu Fei remained motionless. Go through the tribulation in peace. You'll succeed. With that said, the disheveled old man turned into a beam of divine light that shot into the skies. With a loud bang, he exploded in the sky above the valley. In the next moment, countless beams of light scattered in all directions and disappeared into the surrounding void. Then, countless formation runes appeared in the void. They were densely packed in the sky and on the ground, they were everywhere. The formation patterns did not just cover the area near the valley. Instead, it covered the entire area within a radius of 10,000 miles with the valley as the center. This, Patriarch Ing Tian, who was watching from afar, was almost scared *** by the scene before him. The aura emitted by the formation was way too terrifying. Patriarch Ing Tian knew that if he dared to take a single step into the area before him, he would be destroyed in both body and spirit essence the next moment. Formations that covered an area of 10,000 miles weren't rare in the primogenitor's world. The problem was that the disheveled old man had set up countless killing formations within the area. Layers upon layers of formations stacked on top of one another, covering the entire area in the sky and on the ground. It could be said that the valley that Gu Fei was in had become a forbidden area that even an extreme supremacy couldn't set foot in. At this moment, even an extreme supremacy wouldn't be able to do anything to Gu Fei. The god of the mountain and river cauldron, the old man, had even sacrificed himself. Amidst the countless killing formations, an ancient cauldron appeared. Very soon, the countless killing formations that had appeared in the sky, on the ground, and in the void disappeared into the void again. The clouds in the sky were calm and the wind was gentle, as if nothing had ever appeared. The primogenitor mountain range finally quietened down. In the past half a month, the disheveled old man had wreaked havoc within a radius of 10,000 miles. The few ferocious birds and beasts in the mountain ridges had all been chased away by him. Although there weren't many vicious birds and beasts in the primogenitor mountain ridge, none of them were easy to mess with. The weakest was a harmless-looking rabbit. However, the disheveled old man was almost bitten by the rabbit when he encountered it. The disheveled old man was so angry that he directly threw the rabbit into the depths of the primogenitor mountain range. At this moment, Gu Fei had also reached the most crucial moment. He was in an extremely mysterious state where his martial body and soul were perfectly fused together. This time, Gu Fei's entire body was filled with life. Even if a strand of hair fell, he could be reborn. It would be difficult for him to die even if he wanted to. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped for Gu Fei. Meanwhile, the people outside were waiting anxiously. However, a month passed and there was still no movement. 2 months passed and there was still no movement. 3 months, 4 months. A year later there was still no movement. This made old ancestor Tian, who was guarding outside the countless killing formations, speechless. The extreme Tao heavenly tribulation was different from ordinary heavenly tribulations. Once it was activated, the great Tao of heaven and earth would be shaken. To the extreme supremacy in the primogenitor realm, they would be able to capture the subtle changes in heaven and earth in an instant. Therefore, no matter where Gu Fei was undergoing the tribulation, he wouldn't be able to hide once the extreme Tao heavenly tribulation was activated. Of course, no one would dare to fight him to the death here. It didn't matter to Gu Fei. He wasn't in a hurry. At this time, the cultivators gathered in the Yingtian clan couldn't wait any longer. A small portion of them directly left. Soon, there were rumors that old ancestor Yingtian wasn't preparing to undergo the tribulation at all. There were also people who said that old ancestor Yingtian was really about to undergo the tribulation and was still preparing. It was the extreme Tao heavenly tribulation, so how could it be done so casually? Of course, one had to be fully prepared before triggering the tribulation. The real big shots naturally didn't care about this little bit of time. However, even the big shots couldn't sit still because they had stayed in the Yingtian ancestral ground for 10 years. 90% of the people there had already left. Only the sect ancestors of the various sects and the big shots who were on equal footing with old ancestor Yingtian were still waiting. Gu Fei had been sitting there for 10 years, so many people began to doubt him. Then, on a dark and windy night, something big happened in the Yingtian ancestral ground. The Wood Race's ancestor, Mu Jinghong, directly took action and subdued the Azure Cloud Path Master and the other 2 quasi-supreme experts. Uncle Jian, Mu Jinghong's old servant, attacked powerfully and killed the 36th monastery master of the Yingtian clan. Even the 36th monastery's grand elder died to his sword. The 12 branch sect masters were all subdued by Mu Jinghong's thunderous methods and didn't dare to resist in the slightest. The entire Yingtian clan was directly under Mu Jinghong's control. All the big shots in the Yingtian clan were indescribably shocked, not knowing what had happened. What is Mu Jinghong playing at? The Jin race's elder Jin Shao jumped out of nowhere and directly appeared in the sky above the Yingtian ancestral ground. Looking down, he saw an azure-robed elder fighting with an expert. That was an elder of the Azure Cloud Path. His sword Tao cultivation was incomparably powerful, and he was currently fighting with Uncle Jian. In an instant, the entire ancestral mountain was filled with sword chi. Rays of shocking sword light shot into the sky and directly slashed into the starry sky. Wherever the sword light passed, stars would be cleaved into 2 before exploding. The power of the sword Tao of a Saint Emperor was extremely powerful. Mu Jinghong sent another servant to show off? Jin Shao couldn't help but look disdainful when he saw this. Mu Jinghong was too high profile. Wasn't it just because he had an extreme Tao for a father? If he didn't have an extreme Tao for a father, Who knew how many times he would have been killed by others? Swish! At this moment, two figures instantly crossed each other, and the dazzling sword light that filled the void disappeared. Uncle Jian put away the divine sword in his hand and slowly turned around. There was not a trace of expression on his face. A hole had been torn on his shoulder, and blood was seeping out. At this moment, the elder of the azure cloud path suddenly trembled, and a sword mark appeared on his forehead. He directly fell to the ground. Chapter 3753. Ying Tianzong was completely under Mu Jinghong's control. Mu Jinghong's thunderous methods shocked everyone in the ancestral land. No one knew what he was planning. After all, Ying Tianzong was a force under the Wood Tribe. How dare he betray the Wood Tribe? The Wood Tribe was a first-rate force in the ancestral realm. It was extremely powerful, yet Ying Tianzong dared to betray the Wood Tribe. The Azure Cloud Path Master, Palace Master Shijue, and the Skyless Sect Ancestor were all suppressed by Mu Jinghong's thunderous methods. The great figures who came to Ying Tianzong's ancestral land as guests were all dumbfounded when they heard the news. Did Ying Tianzong ally with the other three forces to betray the Wood Tribe? This was no small matter. The combined strength of the four forces was strong enough to sweep through the territories controlled by the Wood Tribe. However, Mu Jinghong was able to suppress three quasi-sovereigns. This kind of combat strength was shocking. Very soon, a storm of blood erupted in the ancestral land. Those who dared to resist Mu Jinghong were all killed by him. The guests were dumbfounded. Almost all the experts of the Azure Cloud Path, Palace Master Shijue, and the Skyless Sect were gathered in the ancestral land. Mu Jinghong's attack practically wiped out the four great forces in one go. This Mu Jinghong is a bull! The guests were happy to watch the show, especially the Jin clan, Water clan, Fire clan, Earth clan, Thunder clan, and tyrannical Sky dynasty. These forces could contend against the Wood Tribe. An elder-level existence came from the Jin clan, Jin Shao. At this time, Jin Shao stood in the sky above Ying Tianzong Ancestral Mountain, coldly watching the slaughter in the ancestral land. This had nothing to do with him, so he was happy to watch the show. In the sky, apart from Jin Shao, there were many other experts watching the show. Haha, is that Mu Jinghong crazy again? A scarlet-haired young man with a fiery aura wrapped around his body laughed loudly in the sky. A powerful fire elemental aura erupted from his body, causing the surrounding void to distort. Hua Chaodian, if you keep talking nonsense, I'll kill you! A cold voice suddenly sounded from the great hall at the peak of the ancestral mountain. Then, a figure walked out of the hall and coldly looked at the red-haired youth in the sky. When the red-haired youth, Hua Chaodian, heard Mu Jinghong's words, he said disdainfully, "Do you have the ability to do so?" Mu Jinghong had a great background, but the red-haired young man, Hua Chaodian, also had a great background. With the Hua clan's strength, they could definitely contend against the Wood clan. Others might be afraid of Mu Jinghong, but Hua Chaodian didn't put Mu Jinghong in his eyes at all. Both of them were descendants of supreme beings. Who was stronger and who was weaker could only be determined through a fight. Humph! Mu Jinghong's expression turned cold. In the next moment, he extended his right hand and slapped Hua Chaodian, who was in the sky. Boom! A huge green hand appeared in the void like a huge mountain, pressing down on Hua Chaodian in the sky. The power of a quasi-supreme being directly shook the void between heaven and earth. This was really starting a fight at the slightest disagreement. The nearby experts hurriedly retreated. Once these two fellows got into action, it would not be a joke. If they were to be affected, they would definitely die. Then I'll play with you! Hua Chaodian waved his right hand, and a ray of fiery light immediately rushed out of his hand. In an instant, it soared for thousands of miles, as if it was splitting the universe with a blade. Everyone looked at the scene in the sky in shock. The dazzling blade light lit up the night sky, and directly fell on Yingtian Ancestor Mountain below. Boom! The blade light and the huge hand collided. The blade light collapsed, and the huge hand dissipated. The power of two quasi-supreme beings cancelled each other out, and then spread out majestically. The void between the two great experts immediately collapsed, and pitch-black spatial cracks appeared. Countless fire elemental Dao patterns and wood elemental Dao patterns collapsed. Kill! Hu Chaotian's domineering aura soared into the sky. He reached out and pulled out a divine blade from behind his back, and then directly attacked Mu Jinghong, who was at the peak of Yingtian Ancestor Mountain. He cultivated the fire elemental Dao, and his weapon was a blade. The blade was the weapon of an overlord, and anyone who used a blade was an existence that overflowed with domineering aura. At this moment, Mu Jinghong, who was standing in front of the main hall, shook his body, and the shadow of a huge divine tree directly emerged from his body. That divine tree directly swept towards Hu Chaotian, who was attacking him. Hu Chaotian was taken aback. In the next moment, a ferocious and terrifying beast emerged from his body, and in the next moment, an endless amount of fire energy surged out from the beast's body. The shadow of the fire beast rushed out from Hu Chaotian's body, and directly pounced forward. In the next moment, the shadow of the fire beast collided with the shadow of the divine tree. This time, there was no explosion. The fire beast that rushed out from Hu Chaotian's body was directly swept away by the shadow of the divine tree. However, the divine flame that the fire beast spat out almost burned the divine tree to ashes. This made Mu Jinghong both shocked and furious. This guy's cultivation seemed to have increased by a lot. Haha, you want to kill me with this little ability? Are you joking with me? Hu Chaotian laughed loudly. Mu Jinghong's eyes flickered when he heard this. However, he did not say anything. Instead, a green light flashed across the sky like a bolt of lightning. Hu Chaotian subconsciously used the divine blade in his hand to block it. Ding! With a soft sound, he felt his hand shake, as if he had been hit by a huge force. The divine blade in his hand almost flew out of his hand. The thing that hit the divine blade turned out to be an inconspicuous slender wooden needle. Come, let's fight to our heart's content! Hu Chaotian roared angrily, and directly attacked. Mu Jinghong didn't say anything and just went up to meet him. The two great powerhouses fought, which shocked all the big shots in Yingtian ancestral land. Mu Jinghong was actually fighting Hu Chaotian. The Wood Clan and the Fire Clan were the two great superpowers of the ancestral realm. While Mu Jinghong and Hu Chaotian were fighting, in a valley far away in the ancestral mountain range, a figure sitting on a large rock in the middle of the valley suddenly opened his eyes. In the pitch-black void, it was as if two bolts of lightning had flashed, illuminating the darkness. It's time! The figure sitting cross-legged on the boulder suddenly raised his head to look at the sky and said these words. This person was naturally Gu Fei. Are we going to start? The moment Gu Fei opened his eyes, the disheveled old man's voice came from the sky. How long have I been sitting here? Gu Fei asked. 10 years. The disheveled old man's voice rang out again. 10 years in a row? Gu Fei was stunned, but he immediately understood. For a peak quasi-supreme being like him, time no longer meant anything to him. Chapter 3754. Gu Fei had been sitting there for 10 years and was finally about to undergo his tribulation. At the same time, Mu Jinghong had waited for 10 years and still hadn't seen Yingtian's tribulation. Thus, he had decisively taken control of the Yingtian sect. This time, Gu Fei had dug a huge pit for the wood race. To the outside world, it was the wood race's ancestor who was about to undergo his tribulation. The big shots of the wood race naturally couldn't sit still when the ancestor was about to undergo his tribulation. The Yingtian sect was only a subordinate force of the wood race. If the ancestor was still a quasi-supreme, he naturally wouldn't dare to have any disloyal thoughts. However, if the ancestor succeeded in his final leap, it would be a different matter. Since ancient times, which extreme grade supremes were willing to submit to others? Unless they were under someone else's control and had no choice but to obey. However, it was extremely difficult to subdue an extreme grade supremacy. It was precisely because of this that Mu Jinghong, a descendant of a supremacy, came to the Yingtian ancestral land. Otherwise he wouldn't have come to such a small place since it wasn't some peerless treasure ground. 10 years was Mu Jinghong's limit. He didn't want to wait any longer. Mu Jinghong's identity as a descendant of the wood race's supremacy was there. After all, there weren't many people who dared to oppose him. Even so, many experts of the four great forces in the Yingtian ancestral land had died. Mu Jinghong was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. The wood race was one of the 5 elemental races of the primogenitor realm. Each of the 5 elemental races had an extreme grade supremacy. They had existed for countless years and were old powerhouses of the primogenitor realm. Under the night sky, 2 powerful figures were rapidly moving in the sky above the Yingtian ancestral land, engaged in an intense battle. Hu Chaotian has a fiery temper. He fights wherever he goes. He's indeed a madman. In the sky, the elder of the gold race, Jin Xiao, stared at the 2 experts fighting in front of him and muttered to himself. Golden rays flickered in his eyes. These 2 fellows were both peak quasi-supreme beings, and they were also descendants of supreme beings. When the 2 of them met, they naturally had to fight it out. In the primogenitor realm, the 5 elemental races didn't form an alliance. They were independent clans. The relationship between the 5 races was very complicated. The wood race and the fire race had some grievances. Otherwise, Hu Chaotian wouldn't have clashed with Mu Jinghong right from the start. The fiery light radiating from Hu Chaotian's heavenly fire blade illuminated the entire sky. It was as if a monstrous divine flame was burning in the sky. Even the clouds in the sky were dispersed by the heavenly fire chi. All the experts in the Yingtian ancestral land looked at the shocking scene in the sky in shock. This was definitely the rhythm of heavenly fire burning the sky. The heatwave that came down from the sky made people feel like they were sitting next to a blazing fire. Their bodies were unbearably hot, and it felt like the essence chi in their bodies had been ignited. Those with weak cultivations had no choice but to circulate their secret arts to contend against the heat waves. The battle prowess displayed by Hu Chaotian and Mu Jinghong shocked everyone present. A faintly discernible supreme pressure enveloped the entire heaven and earth. This was the sign of their bloodline power being stimulated. Hu Chaotian and Mu Jinghong were the descendants of a supreme being. Moreover, they were the 2nd generation of a supreme being. The supreme bloodline they inherited was extremely pure. Once they stimulated the supreme bloodline in their bodies, they could easily become a saint. They could also cultivate to the quasi-supreme realm in the shortest time possible. However, the supreme bloodline had both advantages and disadvantages for these 2nd-generation supreme beings. The advantage was that their cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary people, and their physiques were much stronger than ordinary cultivators. The disadvantage was that it was almost impossible for them to take the final step and make the final leap. The supreme bloodline in their bodies was a kind of suppression, a kind of supreme suppression. It was almost impossible for them to surpass their fathers. Although it was almost impossible for them to make the final leap, they were still much stronger than ordinary quasi-supreme beings. Otherwise, Mu Jinghong wouldn't have been able to subdue the Green Cloud Path Master and the other 2 quasi-supreme beings in one move. At this time, in the mountain ridges outside the Yingtian ancestral land, a huge chase was taking place in the dusky wild forest. Where did Brother Fei go? A guy covered in blood passed through a short forest and rushed into the ancient forest on the opposite side. Then, he hid behind a towering ancient tree. That person was Yang Zhan. He had been separated from the 36th monastery's people, each fleeing for their own lives. After Grand Elder Qi Yuan had been killed by Jianbo, he and the others had directly fled from the Yingtian ancestral land. If they stayed there, there would only be one result: death. No one wanted to die, so they could only take the risk and flee. It was a good thing Gu Fei had left behind a backup plan. Otherwise, Yang Zhan and the others could only be slaughtered. Before leaving, Gu Fei had left behind a bit of energy in Yang Zhan's body. It was this energy that had allowed Yang Zhan and the other elders and disciples to directly kill their way out of the Yingtian ancestral land. Rumble! At this moment, a thunderous rumble came from the direction of the Yingtian ancestral land. Yang Zhan was startled. Just at this moment, something suddenly flew over the forest. He was startled and was just about to flee. Just as Yang Zhan moved, a ball of divine light smashed down from the sky. That ball of divine light directly smashed into the ancient forest. In the next moment, Yang Zhan felt the ground beneath his feet shake. Then, he felt a suction force enveloping him and pulling him forward. Yang Zhan saw the surrounding trees being uprooted, and he also flew forward. There was a war chariot floating in the air above the ancient forest. The beast pulling the chariot was letting out a low roar. There was a black-armored immortal general standing on the chariot. It was this black-armored immortal general. That ball of divine light blossomed in the ancient forest, and an extremely powerful devouring power surged out from within the divine light. The surrounding towering ancient trees were uprooted one after another and flew towards that ball of divine light. Even the soil, sand, and stones were swallowed up. Humph! Yang Zhan sneered and waved his right hand. An extremely sharp sword light immediately rushed out from his hand, breaking through the devouring power and rushing out. Just as Yang Zhan was about to escape that devouring energy, a ray of divine light descended from the sky, instantly arriving in front of Yang Zhan. Do you think I'm a sick cat if I don't show off my power? Yang Zhan was truly enraged. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed the incoming ray of divine light. In the next instant, the ray of divine light dissipated, and a battle spear appeared in his hand. I'll return it to you! Yang Zhan roared and threw the spear at the war chariot in the sky. It directly nailed the beast, pulling the chariot to death in the air. What? When the black-armored celestial general saw this, his shock was no small matter. In the next moment, Yang Zhan slapped his palm at the war chariot in the sky. Boom! With a loud noise, the entire war chariot exploded. The black-armored immortal general's immortal body turned into a mist of blood, and he immediately died. At this moment, an extremely powerful aura of the divine path erupted from Yang Zhan's body. Chapter 3755. Yang Zhan killed the black-armored immortal general with a single palm strike, but in the next moment, he was terrified. That was because at that moment, more than a dozen Sage Realm spirit consciousnesses locked onto him. Swoosh! Yang Zhan directly rushed down from the sky and fled into the mountain ridge. Where do you think you're going? More than a dozen Sage Realm experts directly chased after Yang Zhan. Seeing your brother Yang Zhan is so righteous! An elder disciple hiding behind a large rock in the distance was extremely moved when he saw this scene. Sacrificing yourself to save others, you're our role model. Taoist Yang Zhan, I admire you. If you die, I'll erect a monument for you. A few elders hiding at the side glanced at each other, and directly turned around to flee into the darkness. Because Yang Zhan had allowed the Sage Realm experts who were chasing after them to escape. At this moment, Yang Zhan was fleeing with all his might. He didn't want to be a hero, but he had unintentionally done it once, and the consequences were that he was in danger. Buzz! At this moment, heaven and earth suddenly shook, and a terrifying fluctuation spread from the primogenitor mountain range. At this moment, heaven and earth shook, and at this moment, the world was incomparably silent. Even Hu Chaotian and Mu Jinghong, who were fighting in the sky above the Yingtian ancestral land, stopped. At this moment, their expressions changed drastically, and they suddenly turned to look at the primogenitor mountain range. An aura that made their souls tremble mightily came from the direction of the primogenitor mountain range. Apart from Hu Chaotian and Mu Jinghong, all existences above the Sage Realm sensed this terrifying aura. This aura seemed to originate from heaven and earth. Supreme heavenly tribulation? Hu Chaotian and Mu Jinghong glanced at each other. In the next moment, the two of them instantly turned into two rays of divine light and rushed toward the primogenitor mountain range, disappearing into the pitch-black night in the blink of an eye. The aura that came from the primogenitor mountain range wasn't powerful, but the moment it erupted, all the extreme supremes in the primogenitor realm sensed it immediately. Is someone going to take that step again? An incomparably old voice came from the depths of the Wood Clan's ancestral land. At the same time, Extreme Supreme's divine senses rushed out from various parts of the primogenitor realm and entered the primogenitor mountain range. Distance was no longer a problem for Extreme Supremes. Even if it was an infinite distance away, the spirit sense of an Extreme Tao Sovereign could reach it instantly. This was the power of an Extreme Tao Sovereign. Apart from Extreme Tao Sovereigns, no one else could understand the power of an Extreme Tao Sovereign. Extreme Supreme's divine senses could reach them in an instant. When was the last time for someone made the ultimate leap? All I did was take a nap and 8,000 years have passed? Some Extreme Tao Supremes who were familiar with each other were conversing. The divine senses of Supremes stretched far and wide. At this time, the entire primogenitor realm was in an uproar. Countless experts walked out of their cultivation grounds and headed towards the primogenitor mountain range. However, that aura that made even a quasi-supreme being's heart palpitate suddenly retreated like a tide, and in the end, completely disappeared, as if it had never appeared. The teleportation array near the primogenitor mountain range didn't stop after the aura appeared. However, the aura that made even quasi-supreme's heart palpitate suddenly retreated like the tide and disappeared completely, as if it had never appeared. With the arrival of experts from various regions in the primogenitor world, the area outside the primogenitor mountain range gradually became livelier. Moreover, the forces outside the primogenitor mountain range were all saints and above. When some saints walked out of the teleportation array of some small forces outside the primogenitor mountain range, those small forces were all dumbfounded. It's finally starting. In a prison of the Ingtian clan's ancestral land, 3 fellows who were paralyzed on the ground like dead dogs stood up when they sensed the aura. That mysterious aura made the souls of saints above the saint level tremble. It was a fear that came from the depths of their souls. They knew Gu Fei's plan. It wasn't old ancestor Ingtian's tribulation, but the terrifying black-robed youth's tribulation. At this time, they hoped that Gu Fei would succeed. They wanted to see if Mu Jinghong was still as arrogant in front of Gu Fei. It's been 10 years. Don't fail. Green Cloud Path Master murmured. What are you talking about? You must succeed. Wutian Sect Master glared at Green Cloud Path Master and said, Sigh. Green Cloud Path Master sighed and didn't say anything else. He was the high and mighty Green Cloud Path Master, the ruler of billions of living beings. When had he ever been locked up in a prison? It was a great humiliation to him, and he wanted to return the humiliation to Mu Jinghong tenfold, no, 100-fold. Palace Master Shiju didn't say anything. His crown was tilted to one side, and his clothes were covered in dust. It was a quasi-supreme level robe, but it was covered in dust. Green Cloud Path Master and Wutian Sect Master were also in a sorry state. Their quasi-supreme level cultivation had been sealed by Mu Jinghong using a secret technique. Now they were like mortals who couldn't use any divine abilities. At this moment, several killing formations appeared near the valley where Gu Fei was, and a terrifying murderous aura was earth-shattering. With the valley where Gu Fei was as the center, the sky above the region within 1,000,000 miles was shrouded by dark clouds. Bright lightning flashed from time to time in the dark clouds. Finally! Thousands of miles away, old ancestor Ingtian couldn't help but be excited when he saw the scene in front of him. Old ancestor Ingtian couldn't help but be excited. It was a supreme heavenly tribulation. Since ancient times, how many people were as lucky as him to be able to watch the supreme heavenly tribulation? This kind of heavenly tribulation wasn't something that just anyone could watch. Old ancestor Ingtian immediately retreated to a place further away and carefully hid himself. He couldn't be discovered, or else Gu Fei's plan would be ruined. In fact, he was being too careful. At this time, the world was filled with the destructive aura of heaven and earth. Even in supreme level wouldn't be able to sense old ancestor Ingtian under such circumstances. Boom! Suddenly, a dazzling lightning appeared in the tribulation clouds and instantly lit up the world. That is, old ancestor Ingtian vaguely saw something in the tribulation clouds, but it wasn't real. At this moment, Gu Fei, who had attracted the supreme heavenly tribulation, was still sitting cross-legged on the boulder in the middle of the valley. It was his aura that attracted the supreme heavenly tribulation. "Are you ready?" The disheveled old man's voice came from the sky. "I'm ready!" Gu Fei suddenly looked up into the sky, and an aura that was 10 times stronger erupted from his body. In the next moment, the tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly surged violently. Rumble! A terrifying and monstrous destructive aura descended from the sky, and the entire region was shaking. At this moment, Gu Fei's eyes were brighter than the stars in the sky. "Ha ha, come on, isn't it just the supreme heavenly tribulation?" Gu Fei roared with laughter. Chapter 37:56. Gu Fei had finally triggered the heavenly tribulation. It was no ordinary heavenly tribulation, but the tribulation of the Supreme Martial Highness realm. If he could overcome the heavenly tribulation, he would achieve the ultimate leap and become the second Supreme Martial Highness after the Supreme Martial Progenitor. At this moment, Gu Fei's aura was fully unleashed. Even Ancestor Tian, who was thousands of miles away, could feel his soul trembling. The extreme fear directly erupted from the depths of Ancestor Tian's soul, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably. He was shocked to the extreme. They were both quasi-supremes, but Gu Fei was much stronger than him. In front of Gu Fei, he was simply as insignificant as an ant. This was the gap between them. Ancestor Tian would not accept it unless he reached it. Rumble! Up in the sky, the tribulation clouds shrouded the entire area. Lightning flashed from time to time. The black tribulation clouds descended from the sky and almost touched the ground. A terrifying aura that could destroy the world spread in all directions. At this moment, with the valley where Gu Fei was at as the center, the area within thousands of miles was shrouded by the tribulation clouds. The ferocious birds and beasts in the mountains were extremely terrified and immediately fled the area shrouded by the tribulation clouds. As a result, there were countless ferocious birds and beasts fleeing for their lives in the mountains. "Is this the supreme heavenly tribulation?" At this moment, some powerful figures began to appear in the nearby area. It had been a long time since anyone in the ancestral realm triggered a supreme heavenly tribulation. The commotion caused by Gu Fei's heavenly tribulation was too great. It was impossible not to notice it. A black-robed young man appeared on a mountain peak and looked at the tribulation clouds in front of him. At this moment, the power of the heavenly tribulation disturbed the entire area. Even the divine sense of a quasi-supreme martial artist couldn't enter the area shrouded by the heavenly tribulation. This aura... Isn't Ancestor Tian undergoing the heavenly tribulation? Some quasi-supreme martial artists who knew Ancestor Tian were shocked. However, it was possible that Ancestor Tian's aura had changed after cultivating in seclusion for 1,800 years. Soon, more than a dozen quasi-supreme divine senses descended from the sky and landed outside the area shrouded by the tribulation clouds. The divine senses turned into a dozen blurry figures. A manifestation of divine will, an extreme paragon. Some people couldn't help being shocked when they saw those blurry yet terrifying figures. Although those figures seemed to be on the verge of dissipating, no one dared to underestimate them. The aura emanating from each figure seemed to be able to crush the ages. It was as if they were gods who had split the heavens during the primordial era, suppressing everyone to the point of suffocation. Their arrival seemed to have disturbed the entire world. At this time, in the mountain valley below the tribulation clouds, Gu Fei had already stood up. He looked up at the tribulation clouds in the sky, vast and mighty primordial chaos energy surging around him. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind, and his fighting spirit was shocking. Primordial chaos divine light shot out of his eyes, reaching tens of miles long, and shot straight up into the sky from the valley. "Come, I want to see how powerful the supreme heavenly tribulation is." Gu Fei stared at the turbulent tribulation clouds in the sky and suddenly felt heroic and confident. His entire body was filled with power. At this moment, he felt that he was omnipotent. So what if it was a supreme heavenly tribulation? He could shatter it with a punch. As if to punish Gu Fei for looking down on heaven's might, a dazzling bolt of lightning suddenly bombarded the valley from the tribulation clouds in the sky. That bolt of lightning was even larger than a mountain. That bolt of lightning directly bombarded Gu Fei's body. Ha ha! Gu Fei, who was bombarded by this bolt of lightning, wasn't injured at all. Instead, he was bathed in the lightning. In the next moment, countless bolts of lightning directly entered his body. Gu Fei was devouring the powerful force brought by the lightning. Come at me fiercely! Gu Fei roared at the tribulation clouds in the sky. Rumble! This time, 9 bolts of lightning with terrifying destructive power shot out from the tribulation clouds at the same time. They instantly landed on Gu Fei's body. In the next moment, Gu Fei's clothes immediately turned into dust. Not even a fragment was left. Just as Gu Fei's clothes were blasted into dust by the lightning, a sky-blue celestial light suddenly surged out of his body. Within the celestial light, countless Tao patterns appeared and intertwined. A battle robe appeared on Gu Fei's body. It was the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe that Gu Fei had obtained in the deserted world. The 9 bolts of lightning that struck Gu Fei were all blocked by the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe. Countless Tao patterns appeared on the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe. The terrifying lightning that was enough to destroy heaven and earth blasted the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe. Not a single mark was left on the area that was struck. At this time, Gu Fei flipped his right hand and a black sword immediately appeared in his hand. On the black sword, specks of starlight twinkled. It was as if there was a starry sky inside the sword. This was the sword that Gu Fei had refined himself. It was called the 9th Heaven Star Sword. At this time, the 9th Heaven Star Sword was constantly transforming as Gu Fei's cultivation continued to increase. Humans had to go through tribulations, and so did magic treasures. The 9th Heaven Star Sword and the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe that Gu Fei had refined were not extreme Tao weapons. He wanted to use this opportunity to refine the 9th Heaven Star Sword and the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe into true extreme Tao weapons. At this time, the heavenly tribulation finally started. Endless power gathered in a frenzy and then increased, turning into destructive lightning. It broke through the layers of tribulation clouds and blasted towards Gu Fei below. Good timing! Gu Fei waved the 9th Heaven Star Sword in his hand and stood on the array platform. He collided with the lightning that descended from the sky and endured the baptism of the lightning tribulation. It has finally begun! Outside the area enveloped by the heavenly tribulation, everyone was nervous, especially those quasi-supremes, who were excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. However, the heaven and earth were in chaos at this time. The area enveloped by the heavenly tribulation actually blocked everyone's spiritual force. Even the spiritual force of those supremes couldn't enter the range of the heavenly tribulation. In this way, no one knew what was happening inside. Everyone looked at the divine lightning that bombarded from the tribulation clouds in the sky in shock. Even though they were thousands of miles away, those cultivators could feel the terrifying destructive aura coming from the heaven and earth. All of them were extremely terrified. Some of them retreated even further away to avoid it. No one could intervene in a battle of this level. Even if supremes wanted to intervene, they would end up dead, let alone other cultivators. At this time in the valley, Gu Fei had already been enveloped by the endless lightning that descended from the sky. The destructive aura made one's heart palpitate. Every inch of the void in the valley was filled with lightning. This was the first attack of the supreme heavenly tribulation, the lightning tribulation. Chapter 37:57. The Sovereign's heavenly tribulation was activated and the lightning tribulation descended. This wasn't an ordinary lightning tribulation, but the strongest lightning tribulation in the world. Every lightning bolt that struck down at Gu Fei from the tribulation clouds had the power to destroy the world. If it was an ordinary peak quasi-supremacy expert, they wouldn't even be able to withstand a single lightning bolt, and would be destroyed in both body and soul. The heavenly tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range was much stronger than the heavenly tribulation in the outside world. The first wave of lightning tribulation was the myriad lightning heavenly tribulation that would cause ordinary pinnacle quasi-supremes to feel despair. At this moment, Gu Fei was standing on the array platform, brandishing the 9 heaven stars sword to continuously disperse the lightning tribulation that descended from the sky. 8,339, 8,340, 8,341, Gu Fei muttered in his heart. He had blocked more than 8,000 bolts of tribulation lightning, but his face was not red nor was he out of breath. The starlight inside the 9 heaven star sword in his hand was getting brighter and brighter. Under the tempering of the lightning tribulation, the 9 heavenly stars sword in Gu Fei's hand was constantly transforming, and a trace of extreme Tao aura seeped out from the sword. Under the bombardment of the tribulation lightning, the 9 heavenly stars sword in Gu Fei's hand seemed to gradually gain life. This surprised and delighted Gu Fei. The birth of a life deity was the sign of a Tao artifact evolving into an extreme Tao artifact. Gu Fei's sky blue immortal gold battle armor also became even more resplendent under the tempering of the tribulation lightning. It was also evolving into an extreme Tao artifact. There's indeed something wrong here. If I were to undergo the heavenly tribulation elsewhere, there wouldn't be a myriad lightning tribulation. At this moment, the disheveled old man's voice rang in Gu Fei's heart. I don't care what heavenly tribulation it is. I'll disperse it all, Gu Fei said domineeringly. Good. You're ambitious. Let's join forces and fight against those fellows here. The disheveled old man seemed to be infected by Gu Fei's heroic spirit. He also became heroic and wanted to fight against some things in the primogenitor mountain range. With the disheveled old man's experience and knowledge, he naturally noticed something. However, he didn't say it out loud. There was a shocking secret hidden in the primogenitor mountain range. Cultivators couldn't undergo their tribulations in the primogenitor mountain range. Once they did so, the power of the heavenly tribulation would increase greatly and become much more terrifying than the outside world. However, Gu Fei didn't believe it. He wanted to become the strongest extreme grade supreme in the world, so he chose to undergo his tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range. As a result, the first wave of the extreme path heavenly tribulation was an extremely rare 10,000 lightning heavenly tribulation. This 10,000 lightning heavenly tribulation was simply too terrifying. Those who could survive the 10,000 lightning heavenly tribulation were absolutely amazing. One had to know that even if it was a sovereign heavenly tribulation, the first wave of the 1,000 lightning tribulation was already enough to make one despair. The moment Gu Fei blocked the 9,000th bolt of tribulation lightning, the tribulation lightning suddenly stopped. However, the terrifying aura of destruction that descended from the tribulation clouds in the sky became even stronger. What's going on? Gu Fei looked up at the tribulation clouds in the sky and sent a voice transmission to the disheveled old man. The strongest 1,000 bolts of tribulation lightning are about to be activated. The disheveled old man's voice rang out in Gu Fei's heart. Aren't you going to help me out? Gu Fei asked. Good steel should be used on the blade. This is just the beginning, I won't interfere. The disheveled old man replied. You! Gu Fei was a little speechless. At this moment, the world suddenly fell silent. There were no more sounds of thunder, and it was as though the world had lost its sound. The lightning that flashed continuously within the tribulation clouds in the sky had disappeared as well. If not for the fact that the tribulation clouds were still shrouding the sky, Gu Fei would have suspected that the heavenly tribulation had already passed. It's coming! Gu Fei's pupils that were staring at the tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly constricted. An immortal bolt of lightning suddenly appeared in the tribulation clouds, breaking through the tribulation clouds silently and expanding rapidly in his eyes. This is... Gu Fei was truly shocked. Could the last 1,000 bolts of tribulation lightning be the legendary 9 heavens annihilation thunder that could destroy the world? Before Gu Fei could react, that bolt of annihilation thunder had already blasted on Gu Fei's body. The next moment, he was shrouded by that immortal destructive lightning. The array platform beneath his feet exploded. Boom! With a loud bang, the endless array patterns were blasted and scattered in the void. He actually triggered such a heavenly thunder! Outside the area shrouded by the tribulation clouds, a quasi-supreme martial artist in the sky almost exclaimed. Since when did this patriarching Tian become so powerful? Someone said in shock. This 10,000 thunder heavenly tribulation wasn't something that an ordinary peak quasi-supreme martial artist could withstand. Patriarching Tian was just a patriarch of a second-rate sect. Even an extreme martial artist couldn't see Gu Fei who was undergoing the tribulation. No one knew if it was patriarching Tian who was undergoing the tribulation. Those outside could only sense the terror of the tribulation from the fluctuations after it was launched. The 9 heavens annihilation thunder was launched. The last 1,000 bolts of tribulation lightning were also the most terrifying. As long as Gu Fei could survive under the tribulation lightning, he could continue with the next tribulation. This was just the beginning. Roar! In the valley, Gu Fei bathed in the thunder fire and roared into the sky. The annihilation thunder fire that could destroy everything didn't even burn a strand of his hair. In the next moment, he opened his mouth and sucked, swallowing all the inextinguishable thunder fire on his body. If anyone were to see this scene, they would definitely be dumbfounded. This was the most terrifying annihilation thunder fire, and this guy actually swallowed it. In the entire ancestral realm, probably only a lunatic like Gu Fei would dare to swallow the annihilation thunder fire. Brat, be serious. This is a sovereign heavenly tribulation after all. The disheveled old man's voice came from the sky. Gu Fei didn't think much of it. At this moment, another annihilation thunder fire blasted towards him. This time, he directly opened his mouth and sucked, swallowing the thunder in one gulp. He had the chaos primordial martial body, so he didn't fear the 9 heavens annihilation thunder fire at all. Even if he was struck by this tribulation lightning, he wouldn't be injured at all. Come on, haha! Gu Fei laughed out loud. He was devouring the power of the tribulation. This made the disheveled old man speechless. Since ancient times, he had never seen anyone as crazy as Gu Fei to actually devour the tribulation lightning. One had to know that this was the tribulation lightning. One could die if one wasn't careful. However, Gu Fei wasn't afraid because he had a trump card in hand. The 1,000 bolts of 9 heavens divine lightning that fell from the sky were stronger than the previous one. The aura of destruction filled every inch of the void. There was no sound of thunder. But the entire world was trembling. All the flowers and trees in the valley were smashed by the thunder. Gu Fei was devouring the annihilation thunder fire that fell from the sky in a frenzy. A ball of lightning appeared on his body, and there were dao patterns that looked like lightning intertwined within the lightning. The unimaginably strong power of the thunder was constantly refined by him, turning it into a part of his own strength. At this moment, the aura that erupted from Gu Fei's body was even stronger. Chapter 3758. At the primogenitor mountain range, the tribulation clouds covered tens of thousands of miles. At least half of the primogenitor mountain range was enveloped by the tribulation clouds. The area covered by the tribulation clouds was probably larger than the entire southern region of the primogenitor realm. If he were to undergo tribulation outside, billions of living beings would probably suffer. Normally, when a peak quasi-supreme expert was about to undergo tribulation, they would enter the depths of the primogenitor realm to undergo tribulation. This way, the impact on the living beings in the primogenitor realm would be minimized. Of course, undergoing the tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range was actually the best choice. This was because one could become the strongest supreme there. However, the prerequisite was that they could successfully undergo the tribulation. Otherwise, it would be a tragedy if they died under the tribulation and ended up having their body and soul destroyed. Since ancient times, many supreme figures in the primogenitor realm had chosen to undergo tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range. However, it seemed that no one had ever successfully walked out of the primogenitor mountain range. When the news that Ing Tian was going to undergo tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range spread, it shocked the entire primogenitor realm. One had to know that it was a place where one would almost certainly die. Although one could obtain unparalleled power if they succeeded, it still made countless experts in the primogenitor realm flinch at the sight of it. No one would be so foolish as to enter the primogenitor mountain range to undergo tribulation even if they knew that they would die under the tribulation. This was also the reason why the news of Ing Tian undergoing tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range shook the entire primogenitor realm. Of course, if Ing Tian was really undergoing tribulation, he definitely wouldn't have chosen to undergo tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range. At this moment, Ing Tian had long gone into hiding. He didn't dare to show his face. If others found out that he wasn't the one undergoing tribulation, it would be fun. Ing Tian didn't want to die yet. At this moment, he had already received the news that Mu Jinghong had used thunderous means to control the entire Ing Tian sect. His trusted subordinates had almost all been killed by Mu Jinghong. However, no matter how powerful Mu Jinghong was, there would always be a few fish that slipped through the net. Thus, Ing Tian naturally didn't dare to show his face. At that moment, Gu Fei's first wave of extreme path heavenly tribulation had reached its final stage. However, Gu Fei was still able to deal with it with ease. In the valley of the primogenitor mountain range, Gu Fei stood in the void, only a few dozen feet above the ground. His entire body emitted endless lightning, as if he had turned into a supreme thunder god from the ancient times. The surrounding void was pierced by the lightning bolts that shot out from Gu Fei's body, and the silent destructive heavenly thunder blasted into the void. Roar! Gu Fei raised his head and roared into the sky. Lightning bolts that were strong enough to destroy the world burst out from his 7 apertures while innate Tao patterns of lightning emerged on Gu Fei's body. Every time a thunder mark exploded, it would be an annihilation electric light. Countless thunder marks kept exploding without making any sound. Gu Fei's body shook violently, and the immortal Tao power emanating from the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe was blasted away. The immortal gold battle robe was now covered with traces of lightning. This was a supreme immortal battle robe, just one step away from the ultimate leap and becoming an extreme path battle robe. At that moment, the 9 heavenly stars sword in Gu Fei's hand began to dim, as if the 9 Tao patterns within the sword would be blasted away by the strongest lightning tribulation at any time. 9,998! A bolt of lightning fire that connected heaven and earth descended from the sky and was directly swallowed by Gu Fei. In the next moment, Gu Fei's primordial chaos body expanded like a balloon. Gu Fei was shocked. The power of this lightning tribulation was several times stronger than the previous one. If it wasn't for the fact that his martial body was strong enough, his body would have exploded from this destructive power. Although Gu Fei wouldn't die even if his body exploded, it was inevitable that he would be injured. If he was injured by the heavenly tribulation in the first wave, it would be too embarrassing. Rascal, be more serious! The disheveled old man's voice rang out in Gu Fei's heart. Preposterous! Gu Fei circulated the primordial chaos body with all his might, and the terrifying lightning tribulation that he had devoured was immediately refined by him. Rumble! The sound of wind and thunder came from within Gu Fei's body. His swollen body immediately shrank rapidly, and 9 primordial chaos Tao patterns appeared on his body. In the next moment, his entire body seemed to have become a bottomless black hole, crazily devouring the boundless heavenly lightning power around him. Gu Fei's cultivation was constantly rising, and a trace of extreme Tao aura was emitted from his body. The entire world shook, as though it was being crushed by this trace of aura. At this time, Gu Fei could feel that his great Tao was about to be perfected, and the 9 primordial chaos Tao patterns began to show true immortal and perfect martial Tao runes. The 9 primordial chaos Tao patterns began to transform into perfect Tao patterns. Once the transformation was successful, Gu Fei's great Tao would be perfect, and there would be no more flaws. Extreme Tao was the limit of great Tao, and it represented the extreme of Tao. Since ancient times, there weren't many people who could reach this step in the myriad of worlds. Even the primogenitor realm, the source of the myriad of worlds, didn't have many extreme Tao supremes, and they were all primogenitor level existences in their clan. It had been a long time since anyone dared to take this step in the primogenitor realm. The last time was 10,000 years ago, and there hadn't been anyone who successfully made the final leap in more than 100,000 years. It was imaginable how difficult it was to pass the sovereign heavenly tribulation. At this time, the 9,999 annihilation heavenly lightning came crashing down from the sky. A 9-colored lightning ball that was as huge as a mountain fell from the sky. It was like a 9-colored star formed by interweaving lightning broke through the layers of tribulation clouds and smashed towards the ground. The terrifying and monstrous aura of destruction seemed to crush the entire void of heaven and earth. One could vaguely see a blurry figure in the 9-colored lightning ball, and the extremely terrifying aura of destruction erupted from that figure. What? Why did this thing appear in the first wave of the heavenly tribulation? Gu Fei looked up at the figure in the lightning ball in the sky. It was a mysterious existence that appeared along with the heavenly tribulation, and it was a mark left on the heavenly Tao by a peerless expert. The heavenly Tao mark could take form and display the strongest attack of the owner of the heavenly Tao mark. Isn't it just a heavenly Tao mark? Come on! Gu Fei stared at the figure inside the 9-colored thunderball and gripped the 9th heaven star's sword tightly. In the next moment, the 9th heaven star's sword, which had dimmed down, immediately emitted a dazzling sword light, as if a powerful life had been injected into it. Rascal, it's all up to you now. The disheveled old man's voice sounded in Gu Fei's heart. Obviously, he still didn't intend to help Gu Fei. Chapter 3759. The heavenly Tao brand had actually appeared in the first wave of the heavenly tribulation. This caused Gu Fei to be extremely shocked. After all, didn't such existences that were almost like living beings only appear in the final stages of the heavenly tribulation? Transcending the heavenly tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range was indeed abnormal. At this time, Gu Fei had no choice but to believe it. The primogenitor's mountain range was indeed strange. However, so what? Let's start conquering the heavenly path. Fight! With a roar, Gu Fei soared into the sky and charged towards the descending ball of 9-colored thunderball. A shocking battle intent erupted from his body. At this time, Gu Fei's domineering aura was shocking. Even the disheveled old man who was controlling the endless killing formation was shocked. This guy didn't act ruthlessly, but once he did, it was earth-shattering. Boom! With a loud bang, Gu Fei directly split open the huge 9-colored thunderball with his sword and killed his way into the thunderball. Then, he pointed his sword at the creature inside the thunderball. To be precise, this was a creature evolved from the mark of the heavenly path. Swoosh! The mysterious creature bathed in the 9-colored thunderball suddenly opened its eyes. 2 electric lights directly rushed out from its eyes, directly smashing Gu Fei's sword light and piercing towards Gu Fei. Huh! Gu Fei was shocked. This guy broke his sword with one look. This kind of battle strength was a bit heaven-defying. It seemed like this was going to be a fierce battle. Swoosh! While Gu Fei was shocked, a sharp claw surrounded by electric lights directly grabbed Gu Fei's chest. So fast! In the next moment, Gu Fei's body suddenly became transparent. The electric claw directly scratched into his body, but it was as if it was scratching air. There was no force at all. This was one of the 9 secrets of the immortal path that Gu Fei cultivated, the anti-emptiness secret technique. Body like the void, disappear without a trace! Gu Fei merged with the surrounding void and disappeared without a trace. The mysterious creature shuddered, and countless 9-colored bolts of lightning shot out of its body, instantly piercing the surrounding void into a sieve. No one could use invisibility to hide from such a terrifying attack. The 9-colored lightning surging out of the mysterious creature's body were like countless 9-colored dragons and snakes, dancing wildly in the void of the lightning ball without dispersing. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to dodge the mysterious creature's lightning attack. However, this person was Gu Fei. Gu Fei cultivated the 9 esoteric immortal Tao, a paragon immortal art. Given his current cultivation base, he had already cultivated the 9 esoteric immortal Tao to an extremely high level. Even if this mysterious creature directly shattered the void, it would not be able to force Gu Fei out. Swoosh! In the next instant, Gu Fei appeared behind the mysterious creature, raised his sword, and cut the creature in half. The creature disappeared in the void, and at the same time, Gu Fei felt an extremely powerful life force surge into his body. In the next instant, his entire body was filled with power. Even the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe on his body glowed with immortal light again, bursting with the most dazzling immortal light. The countless marks left by the lightning on the sky-blue immortal gold battle robe also disappeared. Gu Fei realized that the 9 heavenly stars sword in his hand also had a special aura, as if a new life was about to be born in the sword. At this moment, the huge 9-colored lightning ball disappeared, and a divine light transformed into a mark that shot into the sky. It rushed into the tribulation clouds and disappeared. Although it was said that the heavenly tribulation could destroy everything, it would leave the person undergoing the tribulation with a chance of survival. After killing the mysterious creature, Gu Fei obtained a strong life force. This life force could directly heal the injured body of the person undergoing the tribulation, but Gu Fei was not injured. This life force allowed him to recover instantly. Be careful, the last lightning tribulation is coming. Just as Gu Fei was in shock, the disheveled old man's voice rang out in his mind. What? When Gu Fei heard this, he raised his head and saw a shocking scene. He saw an unimaginably terrifying figure walk down from the tribulation clouds. An extreme aura surged from this figure. With every step he took, the entire world shook, as if he could shatter the void and destroy the world at any time. Extreme lightning reverend? When Gu Fei saw this figure, no matter how firm his Tao heart was, he could not help but be shocked. It seemed that the mysterious creature was just a lackey of the Supreme Lightning Ancestor. At this moment, a thundercloud appeared behind the Supreme Lightning Ancestor. In the next moment, the Supreme Existence waved his hand, and countless experts of the Lightning Tao rushed out from the thundercloud. Shocking battle cries rang out in the void. This was an army made up of countless experts of the Lightning Ancestor. When Gu Fei saw this scene, he could not help but be shocked. Since ancient times, there had been countless people who cultivated the Lightning Tao in the primogenitor's realm. There were also countless people who had left their marks on the heavenly path. However, what made Gu Fei's scalp go numb was that the Supreme Lightning Ancestor could actually control the marks left by the experts of the Lightning Tao on the heavenly path. When Gu Fei saw countless experts of the Lightning Tao charging towards him, he could not help but feel his scalp go numb even with the protection of the sky-blue immortal golden battle armor. He swung his sword and cut off a strand of hair. Then, he grabbed it in his hand and threw it into his mouth, chewing it, and then spat it at the experts of the Lightning Tao. In the next moment, as Gu Fei spat out a mouthful of hair, countless figures appeared in the void and turned into countless copies of himself. Then, they charged towards the experts of the Lightning Tao. At Gu Fei's level of cultivation, even a strand of hair could become a clone of himself. When he spat out a mouthful of hair, countless Gu Fei appeared in the void in front of him. Each of the Gu Fei gave off an extremely powerful energy fluctuation. The army of Gu Fei collided with the countless experts of the Lightning Tao. It was as if two armies were really fighting. This scene was incomparably realistic. The fierce battle was extremely bloody. At this time, Gu Fei faced the Supreme Lightning Ancestor. The Supreme Lightning Ancestor emitted an extremely ancient and vicissitude aura, as if he had existed since time immemorial. He was an ancient god. Facing such an opponent, even Gu Fei did not dare to be negligent. His expression was extremely solemn as he stared at the terrifying figure in front of him. The figure of the Supreme Lightning Ancestor was also staring at Gu Fei. The aura of the extreme path was vast and mighty, and he could launch a fatal blow at Gu Fei at any time. Chapter 3760. Gu Fei triggered his supreme heavenly tribulation in a valley in the primogenitor mountain range. He encountered great trouble during the first wave of the tribulation. He never imagined that a heaven-defying existence like the heavenly Tao brand would appear at the end of the first wave of the 9 heavens annihilating thunder tribulation. It was an incomparably ancient heavenly Tao brand. Its owner was definitely a super antique and a lightning Tao supremacy. Lightning represented destruction. The lightning Tao supremacy was naturally a terrifying destroyer. Its huge body exuded an aura of destruction that made even Gu Fei's heart palpitate. At this time, countless figures were fighting desperately under the tribulation clouds. Gu Fei chewed on his hair and spat it out. The broken hair instantly turned into countless Gu Fei's and clashed with the Thunder Clan's army formed from the countless lightning Tao supremacy's subordinates. For a moment, it was hard to tell who would come out on top. The Gu Fei's army blocked the Thunder Clan's army. Gu Fei and the Supreme Lightning Ancestor faced each other across the sky. Their auras were constantly rising. Gu Fei didn't dare to be negligent. The guy opposite him was formed from the great Tao brand left behind by the lightning Tao supremacy countless years ago. It represented the strongest power of this lightning tribulation. Only by defeating this ancient lightning Tao supremacy could he survive the first wave of the tribulation. Gu Fei really didn't think that the power of the tribulation in the Primogenitor mountain range would become so powerful and terrifying. But so what? Kill! Gu Fei took the initiative to attack. With a furious roar, his voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. At the same time, his right hand had already slammed towards the Sovereign of Lightning's imprint. A giant primordial chaos hand appeared in front of Gu Fei's palm. Endless primordial chaos force erupted from the giant hand. Wherever the giant primordial chaos hand passed, the figures formed from the great Tao brand of the Thunder Clan's powerhouses collapsed one after another. They turned into brand again and soared into the sky, returning to the heavenly Tao. Some comparatively weaker Grand Tao brands even directly collapsed into pieces in space, and they completely dispersed and were unable to return to the heaven Tao. The great Tao imprint was not eternal, and the power of the great Tao imprint was not limitless. After this battle, the Thunder Tao experts in the Primogenitor realm who had yet to pass their heavenly tribulations were overjoyed. The chaotic primordial hand that Gu Fei had unleashed was like a chaotic divine mountain crushing down. The great path imprints of countless cultivators of the Way of Thunder crumbled one after another. His first move was the heaven-covering palm. At this time, the terrifying figure on the other side also made a move. 9 balls of lightning directly rushed out from the figure, bombarding towards Gu Fei. Boom! The first ball of thunder directly collided with Gu Fei's primordial chaos palm. The ball of thunder exploded, and endless thunder patterns erupted. Each of the thunder patterns radiated with destructive power. Gu Fei's primordial chaos hand paused for a moment. Boom, boom, boom! Earth-shattering explosions rang out continuously. With every explosion, the entire space shook as if it was about to collapse. Even a portion of the tribulation clouds in the sky was dispersed. The power displayed by Gu Fei's heaven-covering palm was very strong. It directly blocked the 9 balls of lightning. However, the moment the 9th ball of lightning exploded, his heaven-covering palm also dissipated. The confrontation between Gu Fei and the incarnation of the Thunder Tao Sovereign was actually evenly matched. No one had the upper hand. However, at this moment, a bolt of lightning silently broke through the void and directly blasted onto Gu Fei's body. In the next moment, Gu Fei only felt his body tremble, and he was directly sent flying. Countless bolts of lightning directly rushed out from the incarnation of the Thunder Tao Sovereign. They were like countless tentacles, bombarding the flying Gu Fei. Buzz! In the next moment, the 9 heavenly stars soared and Gu Fei's hand let out a crisp sword cry. Then, Gu Fei swung the 9 heavenly stars sword in his hand fiercely. 9 rays of sword light immediately rushed out from the 9 heavenly stars sword in his hand. A terrifying murderous aura suddenly appeared between the heavens and the earth, causing the entire world to lose its color. Gu Fei displayed the 9 heaven-punishing swords. This was the supreme sword Tao divine ability. When cultivated to the highest realm, a single slash could destroy a region. Although Gu Fei had yet to cultivate the 9 heaven-punishing swords to the final realm, the power displayed by this slash was shocking. The 9 rays of sword light emitting a monstrous murderous aura directly destroyed the countless bolts of lightning and directly slashed at the body of the Thunder Tao Sovereign. Wherever the sword light passed, it seemed to be able to cut through everything. This was the power of the 9 heaven-punishing swords, known to be able to cut through the heavens with a single slash. The Thunder Clan Sovereign's incarnation was also extremely powerful. The 9 rays of sword light of annihilation penetrated his body, unable to harm him in the slightest. It was as if he had become one with the surrounding lightning. This is... Gu Fei was taken aback. At the same time, the figure instantly closed in on him. With a huge hand, it directly grabbed at Yi Futian's head at an extremely fast speed. Gu Fei only had time to reach out with his right hand and directly met the figure's hand. He was using the secret word, none, of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. The moment the hand of the Thunder Dao Sovereign's incarnation touched Gu Fei's hand, it instantly turned into nothingness. The power of the secret word, none, instantly enveloped the Thunder Dao Sovereign's incarnation. In the next moment, the endless lightning emitted by the Thunder Dao Sovereign's incarnation suddenly dimmed. The endless power of the lightning was turned into nothingness by Gu Fei's secret word, none. Primordial Spirit Sword of the Way! Gu Fei did not stop. With a roar, he used another of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. A figure rushed out of his forehead and turned into a sword shadow. With a flash, the sword shadow actually cut off the head of the Extreme Lightning Ancestor's incarnation. Gu Fei's 9 sky-punishing swords had not been able to harm the Extreme Lightning Ancestor's incarnation at all. He did not expect the Primordial Spirit Sword of the Way to be able to harm the incarnation. This was truly a case of one thing conquering another. Gu Fei's Primordial Spirit Sword of the Way specialized in cutting the opponent's primordial spirit. This imprint of the Great Tao was actually a different kind of primordial spirit imprint. The Extreme Lightning Ancestor's incarnation was not defeated just like that. His figure dissipated in the void, but in the next moment, endless lightning gathered. A figure appeared before Gu Fei once again. This person was the Extreme Lightning Ancestor's incarnation. Although the Extreme Lightning Ancestor's incarnation did not return to the heavenly path, his battle prowess was much weaker after being slashed by Gu Fei's sword. Again! Gu Fei's battle intent surged as he directly charged at the Extreme Lightning Ancestor. Chapter 3761. High up in the sky, beneath the tribulation clouds, Gu Fei battled the Extreme Lightning Ancestor. The 2 figures fought in the sky, shaking the entire world. Powerful energy waves spread out in all directions, terrifying to the extreme. The tribulation clouds in the sky tumbled violently, as if something was about to rush out of them. Boom! Bam! Muffled sounds of collisions kept ringing out as Gu Fei was blasted away. His entire body was enveloped by 9-colored lightning, but with a shake of his body, the lightning enveloping him was immediately shaken off. At the same time, the lightning-shaped spear stabbed straight at Gu Fei's forehead. In an instant, it was less than half a foot away from Gu Fei's forehead. So fast! Gu Fei was secretly shocked. In the next moment, his body suddenly became transparent, and the spear's spearhead pierced right through his forehead. It was as if it was stabbing the air, without any point of impact. At the same time, Gu Fei pounced forward and directly hugged the Supreme Incarnation. In the next moment, the incarnation of the Extreme Lightning Ancestor was directly devoured by his divine body. Gu Fei desperately operated the Returning Truth's secret technique, one of the 9 secrets of the Immortal Path. The power of the Way of Thunder that was devoured into his body was turned into the most primitive spiritual energy of the world, which was then devoured by him, becoming a part of his own power. However, the power of the Way of Thunder was too powerful. Even if Gu Fei frantically operated the Returning Truth's secret technique, he would not be able to completely refine such a huge amount of power in a short time. At that moment, Gu Fei seemed to have turned into a supreme Way of Thunder. Blinding lightning constantly rushed out of his 7 orifices, and the power of the Way of Thunder kept rampaging in his body. His flesh and bones were destroyed by the powerful power of the Way of Thunder, only to be reborn again. Gu Fei's primordial chaos body was constantly transforming, becoming more and more powerful. His flesh and bones were constantly smelting the immortal power of the way of thunder from the heavenly tribulation. Gu Fei was the only one who dared to use the power of tribulation lightning to temper his body. After the lightning Tao sovereign's incarnation was devoured by Gu Fei, it did not return to the heavenly Tao. Instead, it wanted to rush out from Gu Fei's body. Humph! Gu Fei sat cross-legged in the void. 9 primordial chaos Tao seals rushed out of his body and imprinted themselves on his body, sealing the extreme thunder ancestor incarnation in his body. The power of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao erupted at full force, the secret art of none and the secret art of returning truth. These 2 secret arts circulated wildly. A figure kept struggling on Gu Fei's body. It wanted to rush out, but it was sealed by the 9 chaos primordial Tao seals. It couldn't rush out at all. Brat, well done! Ha ha! At that moment, the disheveled old man's voice rang out in Gu Fei's mind. How could Gu Fei have the time to pay attention to this guy at a time like this? Several hours passed, and Gu Fei fought to the death with the extreme thunder ancestor's incarnation sealed in his body. He almost let the incarnation break out of his body several times. The tribulation cloud shrouded the entire area. At that moment, the people outside were shocked. There was suddenly no powerful aura coming from the area shrouded by the tribulation clouds. No one knew who was injured and who was defeated. At that moment, the battle between Gu Fei's army and the Lightning Tao Sovereign's army had reached a climax. After the extreme thunder ancestor's incarnation was devoured by Gu Fei, the Lightning Tao Sovereign's camp began to show signs of defeat. Soon, the Lightning Tao Sovereign's camp was routed without any warning. Gu Fei's army pursued and sent these guys back to the heavenly path. Some of the Lightning Tao Sovereign's imprints were already very weak. As long as they were defeated, the imprints would shatter in the void and disappear completely. After another half a day, Gu Fei finally refined the extreme thunder ancestor's incarnation. This time, endless divine light descended from the sky. As he bathed in the divine light, an unbelievably powerful life force poured into his body. Gu Fei felt as if the heavenly voice was ringing in his ears. The next moment, Gu Fei felt that the bottleneck of his cultivation had finally loosened. He was about to take that step. Gu Fei passed the first wave of sovereign heavenly tribulation. The moment Gu Fei refined the extreme thunder ancestor's incarnation, the second wave of sovereign heavenly tribulation began. The next moment, towering divine flames rushed out of the ground and enveloped Gu Fei. Before Gu Fei could rejoice, he found himself in the sea of flames. Of course, given his cultivation, the divine flames that came out of the ground could not hurt him at all. Earth fire! To think that it's earth fire! The disheveled old man's voice sounded once more. Heavenly thunder and earthly fire! Gu Fei, who was trapped in the sea of flames, was extremely frustrated. To think that the second wave of sovereign heavenly tribulation would be the earthly fire heavenly tribulation. What's going on? Gu Fei did not know why this was happening either. These were all extremely powerful heavenly tribulations. If this was the case from the start, wouldn't the third and fourth waves be even more terrifying? I've said it before. This place is different from other places. The chances of success for sovereign heavenly tribulations here are very slim, the disheveled old man said. At this moment, fiery patterns of the great Tao began to appear within the divine flames. The power of the divine flames instantly increased by several times, causing the void to distort from the heat. Gu Fei decided to sit cross-legged in the void again. He circulated his mystic arts and frantically devoured the surrounding essence chi of heaven and earth. The 9 heaven stars sword in his hand shone brilliantly in the divine flames. After being tempered by the divine flames, the extreme Tao aura emanating from the 9 heaven stars sword became even stronger. At this moment, the sky blue immortal golden battle robe that Gu Fei was wearing was also gradually transforming. Be it the 9 heaven stars sword or the sky blue immortal golden battle robe, they both had the chance to break through to the extreme Tao realm and become extreme Tao weapons. Rumble! At this moment, the heaven and earth shook. An almost transparent divine flame rose from the ground. The power of this divine flame was clearly much stronger than before. There were many types of fire in the world. The connate true fire was one of the strongest types of fire. There were also the lunar fire, purple yang fire, etc. At this moment, the almost transparent divine flame was the connate true fire. The terrifying connate true fire could smelt almost everything in the world, but it could not smelt anything that was imperishable. Gu Fei remained motionless, allowing the connate true fire to burn his body. He was even using the power of the connate true fire to temper his martial body in a frenzy. This was too crazy. If others were to find out, they would definitely fall to the ground in shock. This fire tribulation was something that everyone would be lucky to avoid. However, Gu Fei did not avoid it. Instead, he invited the fire onto himself. It was also because of Gu Fei's craziness that his martial body was as strong as a Tao weapon in human form. It could directly go against a true Tao weapon. This was the advantage of a warrior, and also the confidence of a warrior. They could ignore Tao weapons because they themselves were stronger than Tao weapons. Chapter 3762. A genius in a second remembered to go away? Shonet, providing you with wonderful novel reading. It was no secret that a martial artist had a powerful martial body. In the past, the extreme-grade martial ancestor could definitely use his martial body to fight against an extreme-grade Tao weapon. It was not an easy task to cultivate the extreme path martial body. Meanwhile, in a valley in the Primogenitor mountain range, the second wave of Gu Fei's sovereign heavenly tribulation finally began. After the heavenly lightning, it was the earth fire. The power of heaven and earth was not something that mortals could resist. If one wanted to obtain great power, he would have to break through all the shackles and obstacles to achieve the ultimate leap. Gu Feipin stood in the void. He was actually attracting the fire to burn his body. He was not like other cultivators who directly blocked the earth fire that was burning towards them. At this moment, the tribulation cloud shrouded the void. Under the tribulation cloud, the laws of heaven and earth were extremely chaotic. Even the divine sense of an extreme grade supremacy would be obliterated if it entered the range of the heavenly tribulation. This was why even an extreme grade supremacy could not detect the situation of Gu Fei's tribulation. Everyone could only watch from the outside, but they could not see anything. They could only feel the various fluctuations of power coming from the heavenly tribulation. This ancestor Ing Tian is simply courting death, someone said gloatingly. Since this ancestor Ing Tian dared to come here to undergo the tribulation, he must be confident. Someone expressed a different view. After all, the ancestor Ing Tian was the founder of the Ing Tian sect. Such an existence would naturally not be stupid enough to court death. We'll know soon enough if he can do it. Some people who had a grudge against the ancestor Ing Tian naturally wanted to see the ancestor Ing Tian suffer. Outside the heavenly tribulation, more than a dozen powerful figures stood quietly in the void. The aura emitted from the blurry figures shocked everyone. Everyone stayed far away from the figures, not daring to get close. These guys were not real extreme-grade supremacies, but the divine sense incarnations of an extreme-grade supremacy. Even a divine sense incarnation could suppress the ages. Everyone was waiting. After all, the success rate of undergoing the tribulation in the Primogenitor mountain range was basically zero. Most people thought that it was only a matter of time before Ancestor Ing Tian died. Although he had withstood the first wave of the tribulation, it didn't mean that he could withstand the second wave. There were a total of 9 waves of extreme path heavenly tribulation. The further one went, the more powerful and monstrous the heavenly tribulation would be. Some people described it as the 9 heavens that needed to be broken through to become an extreme path sovereign. Each wave of heavenly tribulation was a heavenly tribulation. Only by truly breaking through the 9 heavens could one become an extreme path sovereign. At this time, Gu Fei had already broken through the first heaven, and the earth fire was the second heaven. At this time, the almost transparent earth fire engulfed him. The core temperature of the earth fire was so high that it could even melt immortal materials. The consequence of Gu Fei drawing the fire into his body was that his flesh, blood, tendons, and bones were all burned into clear air, dissipating into the void. Love goes small, say Netka. He watched helplessly as his hair, skin, and flesh melted in the almost transparent earth fire. This was absolutely terrifying to the extreme. The pain that came from his body almost drove Gu Fei crazy. It almost exceeded the limit that Gu Fei could bear. This was also a kind of training, an extreme kind of training. The terrifying earth fire even burned into Gu Fei's bones, igniting his marrow. The sovereign heavenly tribulation was constantly changing, and the power of the earth fire was constantly increasing. Gu Fei's entire body was left sitting cross-legged in the endless earth fire. The earth fire was burning, and the almost transparent earth fire lasted for an hour before receding. However, another kind of earth fire emerged from the ground. Black lotuses rushed out of the ground and flew towards Gu Fei. These weren't real black lotuses, but the transformation of the extreme black flame. This extreme black flame was also a kind of earth fire, and the source of the extreme black flame was the legendary 9 underworlds. However, this was only a legend. No one knew where the source of the extreme black flame was, not even the primogenitor of the Black Flame clan in the ancestral god realm. The black lotuses formed by the black flames directly entered Gu Fei's bones. Gu Fei's bones emitted endless primal chaos Tao patterns, but at this time, these powerful Tao patterns couldn't stop the black lotuses. The black lotuses entered his bones and burned his marrow. At this moment, the primordial spirit fire in Gu Fei's skull was violently beating. No one knew what kind of pain Gu Fei was enduring. This kind of torture could make a quasi-supreme go crazy, but Gu Fei was silently enduring it. The extreme black flame wasn't able to burn Gu Fei's bones. The primal chaos chi was vast and mighty on his bones, and endless primal chaos Tao patterns were interweaving. The Tao patterns imprinted on his bones were all awakened, and they were all emitting the primal chaos power of the great Tao. The extreme black flame didn't just bring destruction, it also brought a trace of heaven and earth Tao rhythm. This kind of Tao rhythm couldn't be cultivated by cultivators, and could only be obtained through tribulation. This was also the reason why when a cultivator reached a certain cultivation realm, heaven and earth would send down a heavenly tribulation. This was the reaction between the cultivator's great Tao and the heavenly Tao. A cultivator's Tao had to fuse with the heavenly Tao in order to achieve a leap in Tao. Therefore, humans and heaven and earth were existences that complemented each other. Any being above the immortal realm would understand this logic. However, it was hard to say who would be able to truly grasp this profound meaning. At this time, the heavenly Tao was supplementing Gu Fei's great Tao, and Gu Fei's great Tao was gradually transforming towards perfection. An hour later, the extreme black flame receded, and fine cracks appeared on Gu Fei's bones, as though they could shatter at any time. This wasn't a good thing for Gu Fei. The next moment, the primal chaos power erupted from within Gu Fei's bones, and the cracks on his bones disappeared rapidly, being repaired by the primal chaos power. Rumble! The ground was sinking, and at this time, a fire dragon rushed out of the ground and swallowed Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged in the void. At this time, the disheveled old man, who was guarding at the side, was shocked. He didn't expect the sovereign heavenly tribulation to be this sick. That fire dragon was extremely powerful, and after swallowing Gu Fei, it actually crashed into the void. Boom! A loud sound rang out, and the entire heaven and earth shook. The void that seemed empty was immediately filled with countless array patterns. The array patterns intertwined, forming a shocking array that blocked the fire dragon. F***ck, I have to make a move! The disheveled old man didn't show himself, but he couldn't let the fire dragon take Gu Fei away. If he left this valley that was filled with arrays, the chances of Gu Fei successfully transcending the tribulation would be slim. You have the fire dragon, and I have the dragon slayer saber. Saber, come! As the disheveled old man shouted, an immortal saber light flew over from afar. With a flash of the saber light, a huge dragon head flew up. Chapter 3763. Genius in a second. Remember love go away? The web provides you with exciting novels to read. slaughtering a dragon with a single slash. This scene was absolutely shocking. However, apart from the disheveled old man, no one else could witness this scene. The blade light summoned by the disheveled old man was actually a peerless ominous blade. Once this ominous blade was unleashed, even a real fire dragon would be slain in a single slash, let alone a fire dragon formed from a great Tao imprint. That fire dragon actually dissipated in the void after being slashed by the ominous blade. It turned into a dim great Tao imprint that soared into the sky and disappeared into the dark void. After the fire dragon disappeared, a ball of primordial spirit light appeared in the void, emitting endless divine light that illuminated the entire world. Around the primordial spirit light, boundless primordial chaos chi surged. Primordial chaos Tao patterns appeared indistinctly within the primordial chaos chi. Gu Fei's skeletal body had already disappeared, leaving only a ball of primordial spirit light. As the fire dragon was slain, the great Tao imprint returned to the heavenly Tao. The earthly fire tribulation disappeared and the blade light formed by the ominous blade flew back. At this time, the third wave of the heavenly tribulation had yet to be launched. Gu Fei took this opportunity to reconstruct his physical body. Within the boundless primordial chaos chi, a skeletal body appeared. This was the connate chaotic primordial martial body that was formed directly from the primordial chaos chi. When the skeletal body appeared, flesh and blood began to grow. Soon, a domineering figure appeared under the tribulation clouds. Reconstructing his physical body only took a few breaths of time. To Gu Fei, this was too easy. At this time, his black hair fluttered in the wind, his eyes were like cold stars, and his slender body was absolutely perfect. At this time, Gu Fei was filled with a feeling of strength from head to toe. Just as Gu Fei finished reconstructing his physical body and martial body, a despairing aura of destruction descended from the tribulation clouds in the sky. Then, in the silent world, a gust of wind blew. That's right, it was wind. Rascal, be careful. This is the wind tribulation. The disheveled old man's voice sounded in Gu Fei's heart. What wind tribulation? Gu Fei was startled. What was going on? Heavenly tribulations were usually lightning tribulations, but wind tribulations were rarely seen. Wind was formless and traceless. It could not be seen, but it could be felt. At this moment, Gu Fei felt a chill run down his spine. He only felt a gentle breeze blowing over, but in the next moment, the martial body that he had just reconstructed collapsed in the void and turned into a bloody mist. In the next moment, the blood mist was blown away into the void, leaving behind only a ball of primordial spirit light. How is this possible? No one knew better than Gu Fei how powerful his reconstructed martial body was. It was several times more powerful than the martial body that had been burned into nothingness by the earth fire. However, even such a powerful martial body was blown into a bloody mist by a gentle breeze. How was this possible? Be careful not to get your soul blown away. The disheveled old man reminded. He did not want to fight every single time. After all, it was impossible for one to become an invincible supreme being without the tempering of the heavenly tribulation. The disheveled old man would only fight at the most critical moment. At this moment, a gentle breeze lingered around Gu Fei's primordial spirit light. This was probably the most terrifying breeze in the world. The inconspicuous wind was actually so powerful. This was something that Gu Fei could not imagine before this. The wind tribulation was fully activated. The primordial chaos energy that was emanating from Gu Fei's primordial spirit light was constantly blown away by the gentle breeze. Even the void sealed by the 9 primordial chaos Tao runes could not completely block this wind force. Gu Fei's primordial spirit was trembling. This was something that had never happened before. Even the previous 2 waves of the heavenly tribulation could not truly shake his primordial spirit. However, it was different this time. The power of the wind tribulation could actually threaten his primordial spirit. It seemed like the real show was about to begin. Ordinary peak quasi-supreme beings might not even be able to withstand the first wave of the heavenly tribulation. They would not be struck by the heavenly tribulation and perish in body and soul. One had to know that this was the primogenitor mountain range. The power of the heavenly tribulation would be even stronger here. Gu Fei defended with all his might. However, his primordial spirit light was still gradually dimming. It was constantly being worn down by the power of the wind tribulation. If it had been an ordinary quasi-supreme, they would have long been destroyed by the wind tribulation. Gu Fei was still persevering. He would not die so easily. No one was willing to die. Gu Fei still had many things to do, so he was even more unwilling to die. The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao was a life-saving method. To him, all the divine abilities and secret techniques created by other supreme beings were just life-saving methods. These weren't divine abilities or secret techniques that belonged to him. Gu Fei was very ambitious. He wanted to smelt the myriad Taos and sublimate them to the extreme. He wanted to create his own extreme battle techniques and divine abilities. Boom! In the next moment, Gu Fei's primordial spirit light suddenly shone brightly. 9 primordial chaos Tao seals rushed out of the primordial spirit light and obliterated the surroundings. The power of the wind tribulation around him was dispelled. However, an even stronger gust of wind descended from the sky and instantly enveloped Gu Fei's primordial spirit light. The originally powerful primordial spirit light dimmed once again. This time, the wind roared. A blurry figure appeared in the void. It disappeared and appeared at times like the wind, drifting erratically. Even Gu Fei could not sense the existence of this figure, let alone where it would appear in the next moment. It was definitely not an easy task to destroy the figure formed by the great Tao imprints. The third wave of the heavenly tribulation would not disappear until it was destroyed. This was definitely not a good thing for Gu Fei. Kill! A soul rippled from Gu Fei's primordial spirit light. In the next moment, endless primordial chaos chi surged violently. 9 blurry figures appeared in the primordial chaos chi. The 9 figures directly charged towards the erratic figure. Murderous intent was earth-shattering. The 9 figures directly forced the mysterious figure into a corner, and were about to kill him. However, a breeze blew in the next moment, and the 9 figures directly dissipated in the void. They had actually broken through his secret technique in an instant. Afterwards, he used the nothing character of the 9 secrets of immortals without even thinking. The power of the nothing character was extremely great. It could turn anything tangible or intangible into nothingness. The wind of tribulation that swept towards Gu Fei's primordial spirit completely dissipated in the void, turning into nothingness. At that moment, Gu Fei's martial body was reconstructed once again. His powerful figure stood there, radiating an overbearing aura. The world seemed to pale in comparison. However, the power of the invisible wind tribulation kept increasing, as if it was endless. It shocked Gu Fei. Chapter 3764. Genius 1 second. Remember love go away? To provide you with exciting novels to read. The wind tribulation was formless and traceless. When the person undergoing the tribulation sensed the existence of the wind, it was already too late. They would be destroyed by the power of the wind tribulation. Gu Fei's chaotic primordial martial physique was extremely powerful. Even if he was attacked by the power of the wind tribulation, he could still withstand it, and wouldn't be destroyed. What Gu Fei had to deal with was the blurry figure that appeared in the wind tribulation. It was an unfathomable living being formed by the mark of the great Tao. This living being was definitely not the peerless wind god in the legends of the human world and heavenly world. It was the most ancient living being in the ancestral realm. This living being cultivated the great Tao of wind and grasped the perfect profundity of the power of wind. This kind of existence could be tangible or intangible, making it impossible to guard against. In the ancestral realm, the most terrifying wind tribulation was the one that triggered the mark that this ancient living being had left on the heavenly Tao. Once the mark of the heavenly Tao of this ancient creature was touched, only death awaited those cultivators who cultivated the great Tao of wind. It seemed that no one had ever survived. This living being was the ancestor of the Wind clan that had disappeared for countless years in the ancestral realm, the Wind Sovereign. However, in the current ancestral realm, the Wind Clan had already become a thing of the past. This clan had completely disappeared in the long river of time. If the Wind Sovereign was still in the ancestral realm, the mark that he had left on the heavenly Tao would probably be much more powerful. Gu Fei would probably be in trouble. At this moment, Gu Fei had already reconstructed his martial body. Powerful waves of chaotic primordial force erupted from his body, causing the surrounding void to tremble. Boom! Gu Fei suddenly slapped forward without any warning. With a muffled sound, an almost transparent figure was forced back by Gu Fei's palm. The mysterious living being in the Wind Tribulation was making a move. Be careful. This fella is equivalent to the incarnation of the Wind Sovereign. Once you kill this fella, the Wind Tribulation will naturally disperse. The disheveled old man's voice resounded in Gu Fei's heart. Then why aren't you helping me kill him? Gu Fei roared at the sky. This god of the mountain and river cauldron was just a mouth cannon. He was all talk and no action. This guy was probably waiting until I was about to die before he made a move. Even though Gu Fei was filled with resentment, he knew that the disheveled old man was doing this for his own good. He wanted him to be tempered by the heavenly tribulation. Once he made the final leap and became an extreme supremacy, he would possess even greater power. Great power was not easy to obtain. Gu Fei had already passed the thunder tribulation. Not only did the heavenly thunder bring about destruction, but it also contained the Tao of immortality that he had grasped and comprehended. The profound meaning of the thunder Tao was evolving in his primordial spirit, gradually turning into a thunder mark. In addition to the thunder mark, Gu Fei's primordial spirit was also branded with a fire mark, a fire Tao mark. This kind of immortal Tao mark represented the pinnacle of Tao, and it was brought to Gu Fei by the heavenly tribulation. At this moment, he had also captured the Tao of Wind Tao. This Tao of Wind was corroborated with his own Tao, and a wind mark was about to take shape in his primordial spirit. Of course, only when Gu Fei completely defeated the Wind Clan ancestors' Heaven Tao mark could he truly cultivate the Wind Tao mark and grasp the power of wind. At this moment, Gu Fei's spiritual will was fully released. Within a radius of 3,000 feet, his spiritual will was like liquid water, rippling in the void, and could even be seen with the naked eye. Such a powerful spiritual will only enveloped a radius of 3,000 feet with Gu Fei as the center. The spiritual will was extremely concentrated, and even the figure formed by the Wind Clan ancestors' Heaven Tao mark couldn't escape the detection of Gu Fei's spiritual will. This also meant that the ancient and dangerous Wind Clan ancestors' Heaven Tao incarnation was only 3,000 feet away from Gu Fei. For a moment, it didn't attack Gu Fei. The Heaven Tao incarnation had its master's battle skills and experience. Gu Fei was fighting with the Wind Clan ancestor, and this was a different kind of battle. If Gu Fei lost this battle, then he would die, and there was nothing more to say. If other people encountered the Wind Clan ancestors' Heaven Tao incarnation, they would have lost all hope. However, Gu Fei wasn't someone who believed in heresy. He firmly believed that he could crush his opponents, even if his opponent was the Heaven Tao. If he didn't have the confidence of an expert, Gu Fei definitely wouldn't be able to reach this step. Kill! Gu Fei let out a furious roar as he charged forward. An expert should advance courageously and destroy everything that stood in his way. At this moment, Gu Fei used the 5 elemental fist that he had created. The power of the 5 elements immediately gathered on his fists. As he punched out, boundless divine fire immediately rushed out from his fists, instantly enveloping the entire sky in front of him. Towering divine fire appeared in the sky, burning half the sky red. The void that was enveloped by the divine fire was burned until it was distorted. The fire elemental power that erupted from Gu Fei's punch actually included the power of the fire runes that he had gathered when he went through the divine tribulation. In the sea of fire, a figure was moving quickly. Humph! Gu Fei sneered. His glabella suddenly opened, and in the next moment, a bolt of lightning rushed out from it, bombarding the figure in the sea of fire. The mysterious figure was almost transparent, but in the sea of fire, it had to reveal itself. The figure had to retreat. That was the power of lightning. If it were to be hit, even the Heaven Tao incarnation would suffer a great impact. Moreover, even if the ancestor of the Feng clan did not disappear and came in person, it would be impossible to break through the layers of killing formations that the disheveled old man had set up in a short time. Gu Fei had the world's fastest movement technique, the desolate steps. With his current level of cultivation, he could cross millions of miles in an instant with a single step. This speed was even faster than teleportation portals. It should be noted that teleportation portals needed to be activated, but Gu Fei could take a step at any time. Gu Fei appeared next to the almost transparent figure in an instant. He extended his hand, and a suction force that seemed to devour the sky enveloped the figure. However, in the next moment, the figure disappeared, as if it had suddenly melted into the void around it. Its aura also disappeared without a trace. Good heavens! Gu Fei could not help but be moved. In the next moment, the power of his divine will erupted, and his powerful divine will spread in all directions. Countless faint, unsubstantial figures seemed to appear in the void. This was the manifestation of divine will. The entire valley was like a ripple that spread out in all directions. Wherever it passed, there was nothing that could hide. Die! Gu Fei let out a furious roar and pounced forward. Violent energy spread out in all directions. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the mysterious figure. However, in the next moment, pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the void. Every crack was as thin as a strand of hair. This is... Gu Fei was shocked. He did not dare to delay. In the next moment, powerful Tao patterns rushed out from the sky blue immortal gold armor he was wearing. The Tao patterns that rushed out from the sky blue immortal gold armor imprinted themselves forward and blocked the invisible wind blades. However, at this moment, he felt a chill on his neck. Then, his head fell off. This shocked Gu Fei to an unimaginable level. In the next moment, his head and body exploded, turning into a mist of blood. This, the Wind Clan ancestor's embodiment of heavenly Tao, who was hiding in the void, was shocked. At this moment, even the sky blue immortal gold armor Gu Fei was wearing was torn apart. The 9 heavenly star sword in his hand was also broken into several pieces, turning into scrap metal. In the next moment, the mist of blood suddenly shrunk. Then, a figure appeared in the boundless bloody light. An even more powerful aura than before exploded from Gu Fei's body. Every time he was blasted into a mist of blood by the power of the heavenly tribulation, the reconstructed martial body would be much more powerful than before. This was Gu Fei's trump card. The wind tribulation was still wreaking havoc. However, this time, Gu Fei learned his lesson and did not let the power of the wind get close to him. He waved his hand and the broken sky blue immortal gold armor flew back to him. He put it on, and the broken armor once again glowed with great vitality. The broken armor quickly repaired itself. Soon, a perfect sky blue immortal gold armor appeared on Gu Fei's body, emitting an immortal aura. Gu Fei's 9 heavenly stars sword was the same. The scrap metal regained its immortal divinity. The broken sword reconnected and fused into one. This time, it wasn't just a person undergoing the heavenly tribulation. Even Gu Fei's sky blue immortal gold armor and 9 heavenly stars sword had to undergo the lightning tribulation before they could become extreme Tao weapons. Just as Gu Fei was repairing the armor and sword, a gust of wind appeared without warning. The sound of howling wind filled the sky. At this moment, the Wind Clan ancestor's embodiment of heavenly Tao was finally going to go all out. Come on! Gu Fei closed his eyes and stood quietly in the void with the 9 heavenly stars sword in his hand. In the next moment, an endless gust of wind surrounded Gu Fei. Within the gust of wind, one could vaguely see several figures. Before Gu Fei could do anything, the endless power of wind suddenly contracted. The violent power of wind blew the void around Gu Fei. The Wind Clan ancestor's embodiment of heavenly Tao was hidden in the gust of wind, becoming one with it. At the same time, a force descended from the sky. It was the 9 heavens astral wind. As it descended, everything in its path was torn to shreds and destroyed. I'll suck! Gu Fei suddenly lifted his head, opened his mouth, and sucked. He actually swallowed the 9 heavens astral wind that descended from the sky. If anyone were to see this scene, it would definitely shake the entire ancestral realm's cultivation world. It should be known that Gu Fei had swallowed the 9 heavens astral wind in one gulp. Who would dare to do something so crazy? The 9 heavens astral wind was a type of wind elemental power. This kind of wind would not appear on the ground unless someone summoned it down from the 9 heavens. Only then would this wind elemental power appear in front of Gu Fei. "All right, it's time." Gu Fei suddenly uttered these words. Chapter 3765. The Wind Clan's primogenitor's heavenly Tao incarnation actually summoned the 9 heavens astral wind. With the support of the Wind Clan's primogenitor's heavenly Tao incarnation, this kind of wind elemental wind could easily destroy a quasi-supreme. Within the 9 heavens astral wind, invisible wind patterns interweaved. It was impossible to see wind patterns with the naked eye. The power of the wind Tao had always been known for its strangeness. It came and went without a trace, making it impossible to guard against it. However, the wind also had a nemesis, the earth. No matter how the wind howled, it wouldn't budge. At this moment, Gu Fei activated the power of the earth. Endless earth chi rose from the earth, and the thick earth chi immediately obstructed the power of the wind tribulation. The endless earth chi seemed to have condensed into an unshakable earth, as if a part of the earth had risen. As the earth chi rose into the air, the power of the 9 heavens astral wind was dispersed. Moreover, the dusky earth chi spread out, making it impossible for the Wind Clan's ancestor to hide. A hideous creature appeared under the shroud of the earth chi. "Die!" Gu Fei bellowed. Boundless earth and chi instantly gathered on his right hand, and a Haoran Gaia appeared in his hand. Without any hesitation, he slashed at the creature shrouded in earth and chi. Swoosh! The Haoran Gaia was invincible. It directly cut through the void, and the sword light flashed by, actually splitting the creature in half with a single strike. Success? Gu Fei couldn't help but be surprised and overjoyed. After slashing the Wind Sovereign's heaven's incarnation, the wind tribulation would dissipate. However, before Gu Fei could finish his joy, the strange beast dissipated in the void. In the next moment, the strange beast appeared in the blurry earth chi again. What's going on? Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. Wasn't it going to return to the heaven's path after being sliced in half by his sword? How could it condense into a form? This fella is quite capable. The disheveled old man had been watching from the side and didn't make a move. At this moment, he had to remind Gu Fei. Stinking brat, this guy is already an arrow at the end of its flight. Put in more effort. The disheveled old man continued. Just help me deal with him, Gu Fei said in annoyance. Haha, it's better if you settle it yourself. The disheveled old man laughed out loud. This was only the 3rd wave of the heavens tribulation. There were still 6 more waves, and he had plenty of opportunities to strike. Therefore, there was no rush. This fellow! Gu Fei shook his head helplessly. At this moment, the ancestor of the Wind Clan was already pouncing towards him. The strange beast was like a gust of wind. Everywhere it passed, the thick earth chi in the surroundings was blown away. Good heavens, is he going all out? Since the disheveled old man did not make a move, Gu Fei had no choice but to do it himself. The next moment, the power of earth burst forth from his body. In fact, he had already grasped most of the mysteries of the 5 elements. Roar! An extremely shocking roar resounded in the void. 9 gigantic dragon shadows appeared around Gu Fei. These were the great earth dragons. They were formed completely from the power of earth, and each of them was much larger than a mountain range. The 9 dragon shadows were like 9 ancestral veins of the earth, circling between the heavens and earth. Even the spectators outside the heavens tribulation could see this scene. Under the extreme tribulation clouds that shrouded the entire area, 9 huge dragons suddenly emerged. The aura emitted from each of the dragons was so strong that even the incarnations of the extreme supremes could not help but be moved. The 9 dragons roared into the sky. A violent aura of the extreme Tao emanated from the terrifying dragon shadows, causing the entire world to tremble and tremble. What's going on? The spectators outside the heavens tribulation were all dumbfounded. They watched this scene with their mouths agape. Everyone was nervous to the extreme. Especially those quasi-supreme beings. They were staring at the 9 terrifying dragon shadows below the heavenly tribulation. Any one of these 9 dragons could easily crush a quasi-supreme being. Gu Fei had already passed the first 2 waves of the extreme Tao heavenly tribulation. His body had already condensed a trace of the extreme Tao power. His martial body carried a trace of the aura that only a true extreme supremes would have. He was already invincible among his peers. Now, he could even crush all existences that were not extreme supremes. Even Sun Ke and those fake supremes could be easily killed. It's only the 3rd wave of the heavens tribulation, and it already has such power. If he succeeds, won't he be able to do whatever he wants in the primogenitor realm? At this moment, the dozen extreme supremes were communicating with their spiritual wills. Old Ancestor Ing Tian was merely the founding ancestor of a second-rate force. Even if he had a heaven-defying encounter, his cultivation wouldn't suddenly become so strong that he would dare to go to the primogenitor mountain range to undergo the heavens tribulation. After all, who would dare to enter the primogenitor mountain range to undergo the heavens tribulation without at least 50% confidence? As for the extreme supremes of the primogenitor realm, they more or less knew some secrets about the primogenitor mountain range. The primogenitor mountain range was the source of the earth ancestor vein of the entire primogenitor realm. In terms of the age of the earth ancestor vein's existence, there wasn't any world that had an earth ancestor vein that was older than the earth ancestor vein of the primogenitor realm. The earth ancestor vein of the primogenitor realm was the most ancient earth ancestor vein in the entire universe. Legend had it that terrifying lifeforms were still being nurtured in the depths of the earth ancestor vein. However, even the extreme supremes of the primogenitor realm didn't dare to enter the earth ancestor vein of the primogenitor mountain range. That was because a supreme had completely disappeared after entering the earth ancestor vein, never to return. Hence, from then on, the earth ancestor vein of the primogenitor realm became a forbidden area for the supremes of the primogenitor realm. In the entire primogenitor realm, extreme supremes were definitely existences that could do whatever they wanted. However, in this boundless universe, there were also many places that even extreme supremes didn't dare to set foot in. In the primogenitor realm, there were still things that could terrify extreme supremes. One had to know that even among extreme supremes, there were differences in strength between them. Although it was rare for supremes to fight, it wasn't absolute. In the primogenitor realm, there was a shocking incident where extreme supremacy had fallen. Can't we let him succeed? One of the extreme supremes probed. One had to know that the consequences of causing karma with someone undergoing a tribulation were very serious. All the extreme supremes could already tell that the person undergoing the tribulation was faintly emitting an aura that made even their hearts palpitate. It was obvious that the person undergoing the tribulation had prepared an extremely powerful backup plan to deal with any accidents that might occur during the tribulation. That person definitely had the protection of an extreme supremacy. Who would be willing to offend a mysterious and unfathomable extreme supremacy? None of the supreme beings said anything. None of them were fools. They knew that they couldn't say something like that out loud. Otherwise, the supreme beings guarding the other side would definitely sense it. Chapter 3766. Extreme Supremes had a mysterious sense of their own karma. Those Supremes instinctively felt that if the existence in the primogenitor mountain range successfully passed the sovereign heavenly tribulation, it would be a threat to them. Some Extreme Supremes could even deduce the cause and effect through secret techniques. Of course, they had to pay a huge price. Some Extreme Supremes instinctively felt threatened, but they couldn't tell where this threat came from. All they knew was that they couldn't let the fellow in the primogenitor mountain range successfully pass the tribulation. However, no one would say it out loud. The karma involved was too great. Making a move during someone else's tribulation would definitely result in a life or death situation. No one was willing to get involved with such karma. The Extreme Supremes didn't move, but an invisible black hand was pushing something. At this moment, Gu Fei didn't know that other threats besides the heavenly tribulation were approaching him. The disheveled old man didn't expect that someone would dare to plot against Gu Fei at this time. One had to know that the sovereign heavenly tribulation was no joke. If one was affected by the heavenly tribulation, the outcome would definitely be tragic. At this moment, Gu Fei went all out. 9 earth elemental dragons formed by the power of the earth rushed down from the sky and pounced on the Wind Clan ancestors' heaven path incarnation. An unimaginably powerful earth elemental force erupted. The Wind Clan ancestors' heaven path incarnation seemed to be stuck in the mud, and his movements actually slowed down. The Wind Clan ancestor wasn't a human, but an extremely ancient living being. No one knew how long he had lived, but the heaven path imprint he left on the heaven path incarnation was still extremely powerful even after countless years. However, the primogenitor realm definitely didn't lack supreme figures who cultivated the Wind Great Tao. Over the years, there were definitely people who challenged the Wind Clan ancestors' heaven path imprint. That was because Gu Fei discovered that there was a bloody hole in the middle of the ancient living being's brows, and blood was seeping out. Of course, this was only the heaven path imprint incarnation and not the real Wind Clan ancestor. However, everything was so realistic that it could be mistaken for the real one. At this moment, the Wind Clan ancestor roared into the sky. His body suddenly enlarged, and he stood up from the ground. The entire valley only reached his calves. The Wind Clan's ancestor was extremely ferocious. He reached out with both hands and grabbed the 2 dragons that were charging at him. Then, he smashed the 2 dragons together. Boom! With a loud bang, the 2 dragons exploded and turned into 2 streams of earth essence, dissipating in the void. At the same time, the remaining 7 dragons charged forward. 2 dragons entangled the Wind Clan ancestor's body, 4 dragons entangled the Wind Clan ancestor's limbs, and the last dragon bit the Wind Clan ancestor's head. Roar! The progenitor of the Foam Clan roared in fury. This ancient beast trembled as the power of the wind calamity erupted. The formless wind actually blew away the scales of the dragon coiled around him. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, revealing bones. The 7 great earthen dragons were also fighting with all their might. Even though the power of the wind calamity had reduced them to their skeletal bodies, they still tightly bound the Wind Clan progenitor. However, the Wind Clan ancestor's embodiment of Heaven's Way was extremely powerful. In the next moment, an even more powerful wave of energy erupted from the Wind Clan ancestor. This time, the 7 giant dragons that were coiling around the Wind Clan's ancestor actually crumbled. The progenitor of the Wind Clan was enraged. The boundless power of the wind tribulation erupted from his body and dispersed the essence of the earth around him. At this moment, Gu Fei suddenly appeared and stabbed the bloody hole between the Wind Clan ancestor's eyebrows with his sword. Roar! The Wind Clan ancestor let out an earth-shattering roar. Then, as if someone had cast a spell on him, he stood there motionlessly. After Gu Fei's 9 heaven stars sword stabbed between the Wind Clan ancestor's eyebrows, a crack appeared there. It was like the most exquisite porcelain had been smashed. Waves of power of the wind calamity seeped out from the crack. Gu Fei only felt an invisible wind rushing towards him. His face hurt as if it was cut by a knife. Gu Fei wanted to pull out the 9 heaven stars sword from between the Wind Clan ancestor's eyebrows. However, his hand sank and he couldn't pull it out. At this moment, countless cracks appeared on the Wind Clan ancestor's body. An extremely violent power of the wind calamity was about to explode. Gu Fei let go and decisively retreated. Boom! With a loud bang, the Wind Clan's ancestor's heavenly path embodiment actually exploded. This explosion was extremely terrifying. Boundless wind calamity power erupted in an instant. This was simply like an existence that was infinitely close to the extreme grade suddenly self-destructing. The earth elemental power that enveloped the entire valley was blown away. The vast power of the wind calamity blew Gu Fei away. Even with the protection of the sky blue immortal golden battle armor, his chaotic primordial martial constitution was still severely injured. Half of his body was blown away. His clothes were tattered, but no blood seeped out. At Gu Fei's level of cultivation, it was impossible for his blood essence to leak out. It would only condense in his body. This guy. Gu Fei flew out for tens of miles and crashed into the layer of divine light that the disheveled old man had set up. He then rebounded and fell to the ground. At this moment, the power of the disheveled old man's formation finally showed. The extremely terrifying power of the wind calamity was blocked by the power of the formation. Rumble! The void that was enveloped by the formation shook violently. The void that was enveloped by the formation was collapsing and annihilating. The entire valley disappeared, leaving only a bottomless hole. The horrifying destructive power spread out in all directions. Seeing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but change his expression. Just as he was about to be enveloped by the power of destruction, a divine light suddenly descended from the sky. Boom! The ground shook and an ancient monument appeared in front of him. This was the Three Boundaries Monument. The Three Boundaries Monument emitted a ball of divine light that enveloped him and blocked the terrifying power of the wind calamity. The Three Boundaries Monument was frantically devouring Gu Fei's power. The power it released was extremely powerful and easily blocked the mighty power of destruction. I don't have much, but I have a lot of extreme saint weapons. Wait, why does the Three Boundaries Monument need his power to activate? Old man, come out. I promise I won't beat you to death. Gu Fei suddenly roared at the sky. The god of the mountain and river cauldron was too lazy. He didn't want to use any strength at all. For the fastest and most up-to-date novel reading, please visit Chapter 3767. Gu Fei was extremely frustrated. The mountain river cauldron's god could have used the Three Boundaries steel if he wanted to, but he had to force him to pay for it. The Three Boundaries steel was actually devouring his power and using it to activate it. Old man, you win! Gu Fei waved his fist and roared at the sky. Brat, I'm helping you. Don't be ungrateful. The disheveled old man was hopping mad. Why didn't this guy understand his efforts? In fact, he was slacking off, and he was slacking off openly. Gu Fei couldn't say anything about it. Got it. Gu Fei was speechless. Even if he knew that the disheveled old man was slacking off, there was nothing he could do. The other party would definitely have all sorts of reasons to refute him. In the end, it would definitely be his fault. It's good that you know. Humph! The disheveled old man's voice rang in Gu Fei's heart. At this moment, the wind tribulation dissipated. A weak heavenly Tao imprint rushed out of the dust and soil. It broke through the sky and returned to the heavenly Tao. Seeing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but smile. This time, he had found the right opportunity to injure the Wind Clan ancestors' heavenly Tao incarnation. The power of the heavenly Tao imprint would naturally be greatly reduced. This way, the chances of others activating the heavenly Tao imprint in the future would increase. Gu Fei was benefiting all the tribulation transcenders that came after him. At this moment, Gu Fei's heavenly tribulation still showed no signs of disappearing. Not only did it not disappear, but the power of the heavenly tribulation was actually increasing. The area enveloped by the heavenly tribulation had truly become a no-go zone. Even the spirit consciousness incarnations of the extreme grade supremes that were watching the show outside the heaven realm couldn't help but retreat, unwilling to be affected by the power of the heavenly tribulation. They were only spirit consciousness incarnations, not even the true incarnations of the extreme grade supremes. If they were affected by the power of the heavenly tribulation, their spirit consciousness incarnations would also be in danger of being destroyed. At this moment, the valley in the middle of the area enveloped by the heavenly tribulation had already disappeared. The power of the self-destruction of the Wind Clan ancestors' heavenly Tao incarnation was so strong that it destroyed the entire valley. A huge bottomless pit had appeared where Gu Fei had been. The pit was still absorbing the essence of the earth. After the wind tribulation, the next wave of heavenly tribulation was still brewing. It didn't start immediately. Although heavenly tribulation was terrifying, it often left a chance for the person undergoing it to survive. The next wave of heavenly tribulation did not descend immediately. This was a slim chance of survival. Gu Fei did not dare to be negligent. He immediately took out a small jade bottle, uncorked it, and poured a drop of divine liquid into his mouth. After directly ingesting the droplet of divine liquid, his tattered martial body healed at a visible rate in the next moment. A tremendous life force erupted from his body. The droplet of divine liquid allowed Gu Fei to recover to his peak condition in just a few seconds. Even the shattered 9 heavenly stars sword and sky blue immortal gold battle armor flew back to Gu Fei. Countless fragments blossomed with dazzling divine light. Under the guidance of Gu Fei's power, they reformed into a divine sword and a celestial robe in front of him. Gu Fei put on the sky blue immortal gold battle robe and grasped the 9 heavenly stars sword. His aura was much stronger than before. The medicinal liquid of the immortal ancestral dragon divine medicine is indeed monstrous. No wonder even an extreme-grade sovereign wants to obtain it. Gu Fei was overjoyed when he sensed the power in his body rising. A single drop of liquid had such a heaven-defying effect. He had never expected it to have such a heaven-defying effect. For the sake of this extreme path heavenly tribulation, Gu Fei had put in a lot of effort. He deliberately entered his inner world and found the immortal ancestral dragon herb in the depths of his inner world. Then, he asked for 9 drops of the immortal ancestral dragon herb's medicinal liquid, which were the 9 drops of immortal ancestral dragon herb's blood essence. The extreme Tao supremacy heavenly tribulation had 9 waves, so Gu Fei had asked for 9 drops of essence blood from the immortal ancestral dragon medicine. Gu Fei initially thought that he would need to use a drop of the immortal ancestral dragon's blood essence in each wave of the heavenly tribulation. However, he managed to endure the first and second waves of the heavenly tribulation until the third wave, where he had no choice but to use the immortal ancestral dragon's blood essence. In Gu Fei's opinion, the 9 drops of blood essence of the undying ancestral dragon herb were his 9 lives. One must know that a single drop of the immortal ancestral dragon herb's blood essence could even revive a dead person. With these 9 drops of immortal ancestral dragon herb's blood essence, Gu Fei was confident that he could survive this heavenly tribulation. However, the heavenly tribulation was full of uncertainties. Therefore, even if Gu Fei was well prepared, he would still face the danger of dying under the heavenly tribulation. At this time, as the wind tribulation dissipated, Gu Fei could feel some kind of change in his body. A wind rune emerged from between his brows and then disappeared, as if it had never appeared before. However, he knew that this wind rune was extremely powerful. The lightning pattern of the sky lightning, the fire pattern of the earth fire, and now the wind pattern. Out of the 9 great Tao patterns, there were still 6 Tao patterns that had yet to experience the ultimate heavenly tribulation. At this moment, Gu Fei suddenly raised his head and looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky. He saw that the originally pitch-black tribulation clouds had changed color. High up in the sky, the tribulation clouds were vast and mighty, and the power of the 5 elements was condensing. This shocked Gu Fei. Sky lightning, earth fire, and wind were the 5 elements. How was this possible? Moreover, wasn't the earth fire tribulation the fire tribulation of the 5 elements heavenly tribulation? Wouldn't this heavenly tribulation repeat itself? Just as Gu Fei was filled with questions, the 5 elements tribulation in the sky began to activate. Bolts of 5-colored tribulation lightning struck down from the 5-colored tribulation clouds. Every bolt of 5-colored lightning tore through the void and struck Gu Fei instantly. At this moment, the disheveled old man had already kept the 3-boundary stone. Without the protection of the 3-boundary stone, Gu Fei's hair stood on end, smoke came out of his nose, and his face was black. He was in an extremely wretched state. The power of the 5 elements tribulation lightning was much stronger than the first wave of the sky lightning. Even though Gu Fei was wearing the sky blue immortal gold battle robe, he was still almost killed. Roar! Faced with the bolts of 5 elements tribulation lightning descending from the sky, Gu Fei roared and waved the 9 heavenly stars sword in his hand, destroying the 5 elements tribulation lightning that was constantly striking down. Gu Fei's heavenly tribulation was indomitable. He wasn't like most people who were only thinking about how to defend against the heavenly tribulation and only think about how to survive the duration of the heavenly tribulation. His heavenly tribulation was one where he took the initiative to attack and not defend passively. However, to Gu Fei's shock, the 9 heavenly stars sword in his hand was smashed into pieces by a 5 elemental tribulation lightning that fell from the sky before he could block 105 elemental tribulation lightning bolts. Although the 9 heavenly stars sword was smashed into pieces, the fragments still carried an immortal divinity and floated around Gu Fei. This Chapter 3768. Gu Fei had never imagined that his 4th wave of the extreme path heavenly tribulation would be the 5 elements heavenly tribulation. This 5 elements heavenly tribulation was also a rare heavenly tribulation. Even in the long cultivation history of the ancestral realm, the 5 elements heavenly tribulation had only appeared a few times. But now, Gu Fei had actually triggered the 5 elements heavenly tribulation. Compared to the sky lightning tribulation, earth fire tribulation, and wind tribulation, the 5 elements heavenly tribulation's power couldn't even be compared to the previous 3 heavenly tribulations combined. This was because the 9 heavenly stars sword in Gu Fei's hand had only blocked less than 100 of the 5 elements heavenly tribulation before it was smashed into pieces by the 5 elements heavenly tribulation. However, the fragments of the 9 heavenly stars sword didn't turn into scrap metal. They continued to float around Gu Fei. Every fragment, even the tiniest fragment, was emitting an immortal divine light. Without a sword, I'll use my fists to smash this 5 elements heavenly tribulation. Gu Fei's battle intent surged. He looked up into the sky, his long hair dancing behind his head. In the next moment, an extremely tyrannical primordial chaos power erupted from his body. The countless fragments of the 9 heaven stars sword floating around him actually rushed into his body in the next moment. This was a martial arts battle technique that Gu Fei had cultivated early on. It was a true human weapon fusion battle technique that allowed one to obtain the power of a divine weapon. The 9 heavenly stars sword was a weapon that Gu Fei had refined himself. Using his martial body to nourish the divine sword was originally an alternative method of weapon refinement for Gu Fei. Rumble! The 5-colored tribulation clouds came crashing down from the sky. Endless 5 elements heavenly tribulation descended, forming a terrifying sea of 5 elements heavenly tribulation that drowned Gu Fei below. Roar! At the same time, 5 figures followed the 5 elements heavenly tribulation down from the 5-colored tribulation clouds in the sky and directly attacked the sea of 5 elements heavenly tribulation. These 5 figures were extremely powerful. As they descended at the same time, the power of the entire 5 elements heavenly tribulation soared several times. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, 5 terrifying figures surrounded Gu Fei, who was in the middle of the 5 elements lightning sea. What? As Gu Fei blocked the 5 elements tribulation thunder that bombarded from all directions, he was also on guard. He was very surprised that the great path imprint of the 5 elements tribulation thunder had been activated so quickly. It must be known that the power of the great Tao brand was the most powerful force that the heavenly tribulation used to obstruct the heavenly tribulation. It would usually appear at the end, but now, these fellows who were supposed to appear at the end had actually jumped out so quickly. The 5 illusory figures were definitely extremely dangerous existences. If he was not careful, Gu Fei would be killed by these 5 fellows and perish. Naturally, Gu Fei didn't want to die. In the next moment, his body shook, and 5 illusory figures rushed out from his body and attacked the 5 figures. A great battle broke out. The power of the 5 elements heavenly Tao brand left behind by the 5 peerless experts was too strong. If it had been anyone else, they would have wet themselves in fear when faced with such a heavenly tribulation. Gu Fei immediately created 5 clones and attacked those fellows. However, a scene that left Gu Fei in disbelief happened. He saw that his 5 clones couldn't even withstand a single attack from the other party, and were directly dispersed. At the same time, the 5 figures closed in on Gu Fei and attacked at the same time. 5 palms landed on Gu Fei's body at the same time. Even though Gu Fei was wearing the sky-blue immortal gold armor and had merged with the 9 Heaven Stars sword, he still couldn't withstand the attack. Bam! In the next moment, Gu Fei's physical body collapsed into a mist of blood. There seemed to be no power in the world that could withstand the combined attack of the 5 heavenly Tao brand. Gu Fei was very strong. He had withstood the first 3 waves of the heavenly tribulation. However, the 4th wave was too strong. What an insane heavenly tribulation! At this moment, even the disheveled old man who was overseeing the endless killing formation couldn't help but be shocked. He knew that the power of the heavenly tribulation in the primogenitor mountain range would be insane. However, he didn't expect it to be so insane. At this moment, the blood mist that Gu Fei's martial body collapsed suddenly gathered together and completely recovered in the blink of an eye. Boom! He directly sent the Wood Element Supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnation flying with a punch. At the same time, the other 4 experts attacked at almost the same time, and once again blasted Gu Fei into pieces. However, even if he was blasted into pieces, he could still reconstruct his martial body in the shortest time possible. At this moment, the ancestral dragon immortal herb's blood essence that Gu Fei consumed had yet to dissipate. Gu Fei was experiencing unimaginable hardships. Roar! Gu Fei roared as he fought against the 5 elemental supremacy. These 5 elemental supremacy were all existences close to the extreme Tao. Gu Fei was continuously blasted into pieces. The 9 Heaven Star sword and sky blue immortal gold battle armor were already beyond recognition. However, the fragments of these 2 quasi-supreme Tao treasures were also bathed in the 5 elemental tribulation lightning. At this time, Gu Fei suddenly grabbed one of the Wood Elemental Divine Being's heavenly Tao incarnation's arm and pulled with all his might, ripping the Wood Elemental Divine Being's arm off. However, he was also being attacked by the Heaven's Tao brand of the other 5 elemental deities. This was a method that would cause both sides to suffer. However, these 5 elemental deities were just another type of existence formed from the Heaven's Tao brand. Chaotic Reversal! Gu Fei immediately used one of the 9 secrets of Immortal Tao, the Chaotic Reversal secret art. In the next moment, the power of the Chaotic Reversal secret art erupted from his body, causing the void around him to distort. All of the 5 elemental tribulation lightning that was heading towards Gu Fei were all shifted away by his Chaotic Reversal secret art. Gu Fei channeled the Chaotic Reversal secret art with all his might. The 5 elemental supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnations actually started fighting against each other. If this scene was seen by outsiders, it would definitely cause an uproar. Unfortunately, other than the disheveled old man, no one else had the chance to witness it. The 5 elemental supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnations attacked with all their might. Under the influence of Gu Fei's Chaotic Reversal secret art, the 5 elemental supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnations started fighting. Although the Wood Element Supremacy's arm was severed by Gu Fei, flesh and blood quickly grew back from the severed arm. In just a few breaths' time, a completely intact right arm appeared before Gu Fei's eyes. Even though the 5 elemental supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnations were extremely powerful, the 5 elemental supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnations were fighting intensely. The power of the 5 elemental supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnations immediately weakened. Soon, the 5 elemental supremacy's heavenly Tao incarnations suddenly stopped. In the next moment, the 5 figures collided with each other and disappeared at the same time. A figure that was much stronger than before appeared in the void. 5 elemental supremacy as one? Chapter 3769. Rumble. The entire heaven and earth shook, as though it would collapse at any moment. The 5 heavenly Tao imprints actually clashed together in an instant. Then, a scene that made Gu Fei's heart palpitate occurred. The 5 heavenly beings disappeared. The power of the 5 elements intertwined and a silhouette that made the entire world shudder appeared before Gu Fei. 5 elements combined? There's such a transformation? If Gu Fei said he wasn't shocked, it would be a lie. Though the 5 heavenly beings were powerful, after combining, they would be even more terrifying and powerful. This heavenly being was emitting an endless amount of heavenly light from head to toe. His entire being emitted a terrifying chi, as if before him, everything else was like an ant. Roar! This heavenly being howled into the sky. In the next moment, a terrifying sound wave expanded and even half of the dark clouds in the sky were dispersed. The entire heaven and earth shook. The extremely stable primogenitor realm's heaven and earth void had black spatial cracks. This was absolutely shocking. To know that they were inside the Ancestors' mountain range and not outside. The Ancestors' mountain range was where the Ancestors' vein of the earth was located. The space here was much more stable than the outside world. Even a demigod might not be able to shatter the space here. Yet now, this heavenly being merely howled and cracked the space. Watch out! Just then, the disheveled old man's voice arose. Whoosh! Just then, the heavenly being suddenly stared at Gu Fei. Rays of light shot out of his eyes that were hundreds of meters long. Like sharp swords, they pierced through the space. What? Upon seeing this, Gu Fei was taken aback. This celestial being seemed to be different from the rest. He had never seen such an existence before. Could it be that this person? Gu Fei thought of a possibility, and his scalp felt numb. If this is true, then this person is truly heaven-defying. Amazing! While Gu Fei was still in shock, the deity suddenly disappeared into the void without any warning. The deity's speed was so fast that even Gu Fei was shocked. Bam! With a muffled sound, Gu Fei flew backwards. Before Gu Fei could react, a fist had already smashed into his chest. The sound of bones breaking came from Gu Fei's body. He felt as if he had been hit by an immortal mountain, and he was sent flying thousands of meters away. He looked down and saw that there was a fist mark on his chest. The fist mark had penetrated deep into his body. This god sent Gu Fei flying with a single punch. The combat strength he displayed was heaven-defying enough. If others saw this, it would definitely shake the entire primogenitor realm. Gu Fei possessed the strongest martial body and had also fused the 9 heaven stars sword into his body. At this moment, he was absolutely invincible among his peers. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of Gu Fei without any warning. The deity extended his right hand and a devouring force immediately surged out from his palm, enveloping Gu Fei in an instant. Gu Fei only felt his body tighten. Then, he flew towards the god uncontrollably. Die! Without any hesitation, Gu Fei charged towards the deity. With a single punch, the entire heavens and earth trembled. Boom! With a loud bang, the two fists instantly collided. A violent and powerful force immediately erupted, and a figure was sent flying. The person who was sent flying was actually Gu Fei. Even Gu Fei himself could not believe that he was sent flying by a guy that was created by the heavenly Tao. How was this possible? Although it was hard to believe, the truth spoke louder than words. The 5 heavenly Tao marks of the 5 elemental gods could actually merge into one and become such a powerful existence. This was something that Gu Fei could never have imagined. Die! Gu Fei took a step forward and instantly disappeared into the void. In the next moment, a giant foot came down from the sky and stomped down on the god's head. A terrifying force came out of Gu Fei's right foot. The space below his foot immediately collapsed. He was using all his strength. This was the first step of the 8 steps, 8 kills of the 8 desolate steps, also known as the first kill. However, Gu Fei's extremely ferocious first step was actually blocked by the deity with a seemingly casual raise of his hand. Without any suspense, Gu Fei was once again sent flying. This god actually broke his 8 steps 8 kills secret technique. This was something that no one could have imagined. This god was like a supreme being attacking. Because of this, even Gu Fei could not remain calm. This was only the 4th wave of heaven's retribution, and such a terrifying guy had already appeared. Although this was only a silhouette formed by the heavenly Tao marks, this was the first time that Gu Fei had encountered such a powerful existence. If it was any other peak quasi-supremes, they would have already given up all hope. However, Gu Fei would not. He would only become stronger and stronger, becoming invincible. Roar! Gu Fei roared and charged back. Bang! Boom! Shocking sounds of impact could be heard continuously. Gu Fei was going all out. He directly performed the secret technique of rising to the heavens and stimulated his potential. A terrifying and violent energy exploded from his body. Gu Fei crazily operated the secret technique of rising to the heavens and stimulated the potential in his body to the maximum. His cultivation actually rose by several times in an instant. Buzz! He used his finger as a sword and drew a line in the air. The extremely sharp sword light forced the celestial being to retreat. Gu Fei followed up with another attack. 9 immortal sword lights rushed out from his body and rushed towards the god at an extremely fast speed. That god seemed to have an independent consciousness. He was also performing his killing technique and fighting with Gu Fei. Wherever the two powerhouses went, everything was mercilessly obliterated. Brat, put in some more effort! The disheveled old man was also extremely nervous. One must know that if Gu Fei were to die under the heaven's retribution, everything that he had done previously would be in vain. What's going on? At this moment, Gu Fei suddenly felt that something was amiss. At this moment, the tribulation clouds in the sky were gathering and shrouding the surroundings. A strong wave of energy came down from the tribulation clouds, shocking the heavens. The 5th wave of heaven's retribution is coming? Gu Fei mumbled to himself while fighting with the god. That god was very strong. He was the strongest incarnation of the heavens will that Gu Fei had ever encountered. The 5 elements combined into yin and yang, causing the qi of the 5 elements to spread out in all directions. Boom! The energy wave from the body of the figure continued to rise. Soon, the void around him began to vibrate. The energy that erupted from his body shook the void around him. This was definitely the moment when the figure was at his strongest. Without any hesitation, the silhouette attacked again. He struck out with his palm and the entire world was instantly blocked by a huge hand. This was definitely the heaven-encompassing palm. This was a battle technique that Gu Fei had cultivated, the heaven-encompassing palm. The moment the heaven-encompassing palm was used, it was absolutely shocking. The huge palm slapped down on the figure. Boom! With a loud bang, the heaven-encompassing palm that was even bigger than a mountain slapped the figure into the ground, leaving a huge palm print on the ground. The surroundings of the palm print were filled with smoke and dust. The ground cracked and collapsed. It was as terrifying as the end of the world. This was the power of the heaven-encompassing palm that Gu Fei had performed with all his might. With his current cultivation base, when he used the heaven-covering palm, the power that erupted from the heaven-covering palm was naturally even more powerful and terrifying. Boom! In the next moment, the huge palm print on the ground suddenly exploded. A figure rushed out from the sky full of dust. All right, I'm done playing! Gu Fei became serious. He waved his fists, and the power of the 5 elements surged. He directly performed the 5-element fist and smashed it at the figure. Monstrous divine fire immediately engulfed the figure that rushed out from the ground. However, the mysterious figure seemed to have disappeared. Even Gu Fei used the secret technique of ascension to stimulate his own imprint to the maximum. How is this possible? Gu Fei was very surprised. He knew that the figure would not be able to return to the heavens so easily. However, he could not sense the existence of the figure. Good Lord! Gu Fei knew that the figure was definitely using a secret technique. It was a secret technique similar to the 9 secrets of the immortal path, the anti-emptiness secret technique. Otherwise, no one would be able to easily hide from Gu Fei and not be discovered by Gu Fei. Be careful. At this moment, the disheveled old man's voice suddenly rang in Gu Fei's mind. Then, Gu Fei felt his body tremble. In the next moment, he turned into a cloud of blood mist. In the blood mist, a ball of primordial spirit light floated. This was what Gu Fei wanted to protect. Once the primordial spirit was destroyed, even if his cultivation was heaven-defying, he would become a walking corpse. In the next moment, the blood mist disappeared and an extremely powerful figure appeared in the void. Gu Fei had actually reconstructed his physical body in an instant, and returned to his peak state. At this moment, a terrifying aura reappeared in the sky. The power of the ultimate god formed by the fusion of the 5 elements gods had far exceeded Gu Fei's expectations. Initially, when the disheveled old man said that the success rate of passing the heavenly tribulation here was very low, Yi Futian did not think much of it. Now, it seemed that passing the heavenly tribulation here was not a good thing. Be careful. At this moment, the disheveled old man's voice rang out. He was warning Gu Fei but did not make a move. This guy. Gu Fei was speechless. Was the disheveled old man really going to make a move only when he was tortured to the point of death by the heavenly tribulation? Chapter 3770. Gu Fei did not expect his sovereign's heaven's test to be so insane. It was only the 4th wave of heaven's test, and he was already on the verge of collapsing. Bang! Without any suspense, with a muffled sound, Gu Fei was once again punched into a mist of blood by the ultimate god. The disheveled old man could not help but be moved. However, the disheveled old man did not plan to help. After all, the heaven's test was to be faced by the ultimate god and not someone else to block it for him. 5-element fist! Gu Fei displayed his self-created battle skill. The powerful 5-elemental fist force seemed to be able to destroy everything. Every time he threw a punch, the ferocious fist force would turn into a huge dragon that pounced towards the ultimate god. The fist force turned into a dragon that shook the earth. The power of Gu Fei's 5-element fist was no longer the same as before. With a single punch, even a quasi-supreme being would be smashed into smithereens. However, such a powerful fist force was like child's play in front of the ultimate god. With a casual slap, the dragon-shaped fist force was sent flying away and dissipated in the void. The ultimate god took a step forward and casually attacked. However, he was able to break through Gu Fei's 5-element fist. This made Gu Fei extremely unhappy. Boom! The ultimate god pointed his finger, and Gu Fei was sent flying into the sky. With a bang! He was smashed into pieces in the void. What? With the fighting power of an ultimate god, he was simply suppressing Gu Fei. However, Gu Fei would not give in so easily. It was just a heaven's test. He did not believe that a heaven's test would take his life. Rumble! Suddenly, a blinding lightning appeared in the void. Every lightning tore through the void, and the destructive aura spread in all directions. It was terrifying. A figure that looked like an ancient god of thunder appeared in the endless lightning. The energy ripples that erupted from the figure were extremely similar to the first wave of heavenly tribulation that Gu Fei had faced. This person was none other than Gu Fei. This wasn't his primordial chaos power, but rather the power of lightning formed from primordial chaos power. Primordial chaos energy was originally heaven and earth ancestral energy. It could evolve into all sorts of powers in the world. Gu Fei had already grasped the thunder mark when he was undergoing the heavenly lightning tribulation. At this moment, the power of the Thunder Tao surged from his body, as if he had become the incarnation of the Thunder Tao sovereign. Kill! Gu Fei roared in anger. He waved his right hand and an endless amount of destructive lightning shot towards the ultimate god. It covered the sky and covered the earth. However, the ultimate true god walked towards Gu Fei step by step as if he was taking a stroll in the park. The lightning bolts that bombarded him were all blocked 3 feet away from his body. The void where the ultimate god was at had become a special space. Other than the power of the 5 elements, no other power could exist in this space. What is this, an absolute domain? Seeing this scene, Gu Fei couldn't help frowning. This fellow was incredible. It seemed that this fellow really possessed a certain degree of independent will. But how was this possible? This had broken Gu Fei's understanding of the incarnation of the heavenly way. It was the first time he had seen such an existence. It was unbelievable. One must know that the heavenly way was heartless. The heavenly mark was just a projection left behind by the experts who had successfully passed the heavenly tribulation. Such a projection should not leave behind any willpower of the experts who had passed the heavenly tribulation. However, there was no time for Gu Fei to think too much as the ultimate god had already arrived in front of him. An endless amount of lightning struck towards the ultimate god from all directions. However, no matter how strong the lightning was, it could not penetrate 3 feet of the void around the ultimate god. Without any suspense, the ultimate god broke through the layers of lightning and pointed towards Gu Fei. In the next moment, Gu Fei's martial body instantly shattered in the void. This time, he was heavily injured and even his primordial spirit became dimmer. To Gu Fei, this was definitely not a good thing. However, Gu Fei was like a cockroach that could not be killed. Very quickly, he formed his martial body real body again, and a strong ripple of energy was emitted from his body. When he formed his martial body again, the aura and ripple of energy emitted from Gu Fei's body became even stronger. This time, it was a test for his 5 elements Tao. The ultimate god was the pinnacle of the 5 elements Tao. As long as he defeated the ultimate god, he would be able to obtain the 5 elements profound. However, it would not be easy to defeat the ultimate god this time around. The ultimate god was too strong, and he was formed from the fusion of 5 heavenly Tao marks. Again! Gu Fei roared and an endless amount of fire elemental energy erupted from his body. In an instant, the entire heaven and earth was covered by an endless amount of divine fire. The ultimate god was also engulfed by the endless divine fire. Within the sea of fire, there were faintly discernible fire lotuses. This kind of fire elemental energy was definitely able to smelt immortal materials. It was the divine fire that countless weapon crafting grandmasters yearned for. The more powerful the weapon crafting grandmaster, the higher the grade of the divine fire that he needed. Gu Fei also knew how to forge weapons. He could be considered half a weapon crafting grandmaster. The 9 heaven star sword that he forged was his masterpiece. At this moment, the 9 heaven stars sword merged with Gu Fei's martial body. Gu Fei was blasted into a mist of blood and the 9 heaven stars sword was smashed into pieces. The sky blue immortal golden battle armor that Gu Fei was wearing was also smashed a few times. However, the 2 quasi-supreme fairy weapons were reformed together with his martial body. At this moment, the 9 heaven stars sword in Gu Fei's body and the sky blue immortal golden battle armor that he was wearing started to form a subtle connection. There was a weak breath of life coming from within the 2 quasi-supreme Tao weapons. To Gu Fei, this meant a lot. Although the heavens trial brought destruction and death, it also brought a ray of hope. You have no chance! At this moment, the ultimate god that was formed by the heavenly mark actually emitted a wave of spiritual will. What? When a voice rang out in Gu Fei's mind, his expression instantly changed. What's going on? Could it be that I've guessed correctly? The ultimate god actually had its own consciousness, and could communicate with Gu Fei. He had never encountered such a thing before. Rumble! The ultimate god's body suddenly emitted an unprecedentedly strong wave of the 5 elemental energy. The entire heaven and earth shook from the wave of energy that was emitted from his body. Humph! Are you the only one who knows how to show off? Gu Fei transmitted a message to the ultimate god in disdain. At this moment, the ultimate god opposite of Gu Fei attacked again. The next moment, the godly fire that filled every inch of the void was extinguished by the ultimate god's water elemental energy. Upon seeing this, Gu Fei could not help but be dumbfounded. The ultimate god's water elemental energy was extremely strong and water was the nemesis of fire. As such, it was impossible for Gu Fei to defeat the ultimate god with his fire elemental energy. Swoosh! The endless godly fire dissipated in the void. In the next moment, there was a whistling sound of wind coming from Gu Fei's body. At this moment, the power of the great way of wind was emitted from Gu Fei's body, and the surrounding water elemental energy was immediately blown away. Streams of invisible wind blades flew towards the ultimate god. The ultimate god did not use any powerful secret skills. He was surrounded by the 5 elemental energy, and easily blocked the countless wind blades. However, when the ultimate god struck out with his fist, there was no dazzling divine light and no strong ripples of energy. However, with such a palm, Gu Fei's extremely strong martial body, 9 heaven stars soared, and the sky blue immortal golden battle robe were all shattered in the void. Roar! Gu Fei roared towards the sky. Endless wind elemental energy exploded from his body, and a terrifying aura engulfed the entire heaven and earth. However, it seemed to be useless. The wind elemental energy could not harm the ultimate god at all. The ultimate god was so strong that it was hard to imagine. After exchanging 2 blows, Gu Fei was killed by the ultimate god. To be more accurate, he was turned into a blood mist by the ultimate god. There was a faint divine light in the blood mist. How is this possible? Gu Fei could not believe it. This was only the 4th wave of the sovereign heaven's tribulation. This was only the 4th wave of the sovereign heaven's tribulation. Was he going to be stuck here? Was he going to be stuck here? No one could answer these questions for Gu Fei. This time, Gu Fei took a lot more time to recover than before. Gu Fei had no choice but to continue. However, he soon realized the problem. It was not a good thing for him to fight with the ultimate god like this. The void he was in was sealed by a formation. He could not absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. As such, he could not absorb the essence of heaven and earth to recover and strengthen his cultivation and fighting power. However, at this moment, Gu Fei was doomed. If he could not absorb the essence of heaven and earth, no matter how strong Gu Fei was, he would be exhausted to death in the end. This was a crisis. At this moment, as Gu Fei's martial body was reborn, a strong wave of energy exploded from his body. This time, the 5 elemental energy exploded from his body. Gu Fei finally used the power of the 5 elemental Tao. 5-colored divine light exploded from his body and lit up the entire dark heaven and earth. At this moment, 2 5-elemental Tao masters were confronting each other in the sky. A terrifying aura spread in all directions. Even the spectators outside the heaven's tribulation could feel the waves of the 5 elemental energy.